There's the Board of Trade American Legion Band, directed by Colonel Hammerin Hank, the singing by the crowd of the national anthem, the Chicago policemen with their six-pointed stars like the Keystone Cops, the first names used on the loudspeakers, the very military ushers, the crowded people on the housetops of the small apartments that adjoin the park here, and the stands, and the stadium with its vine-covered outfield walls, and all of it adds up to tremendously mounting interest as we move into this fifth game of the 45 World Series, with each team holding 2 victories to its credit, and the ice bound to be broken today. It could be said that Detroit has the upper hand because Dizzy Trout came through yesterday, and they have great expectations of the star lefty Hal Newhouser today, and then tomorrow for the Tigers, it will be that fireball sailor man, Virgil Trucks. Trout, Newhouser, Trucks. TNT. TNT, maybe, because today there goes against the Tigers for the Chicago Cubs, Hank Baroy. Hank the X-Yank. And Baroy has been the standout pitcher for the Cubs in their pennant drive, and he's been their standout, at least half of it in the series so far. It's this boy Baroy who has won 8 straight ball games now, 7 at the tail end of the season, and the first game of the World Series. He hasn't been defeated since the 24th of August, when he lost a 1-0 decision to Harry Burkeen of the Cardinals. Baroy has defeated these Tigers in his lifetime 12 times out of 15 decisions, so it could be said that he has a bit of a jinx on them. He has been the pitcher in each of the crucial games as far as the Cubs' fate has been concerned in 1945. He pitched and won the crucial game against the St. Louis Cardinals. He was the winning pitcher in the pennant-winning game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. He pitched the first World Series game, and a 9-0 victory it was for the Cubs, and today he pitches the rubber game of the first 5. On the other hand, tall, talented, one of the best lefties ever to throw a baseball, is Hal Newhouser, Detroit born and bred, who won 29 games and lost only 9 last year for the Tigers for an amazing record, and came back this year to win 25 and to lose only 9. And it was Newhouser, today's pitcher for Detroit, who won the crucial pennant-clinching game for the Detroit Tigers against the Brownies a week ago Saturday. So those are the 2 pitchers as we move in on this particular ball game here today. Incidentally, a little sidelight on these pitchers. The day before the series began up in Briggs Stadium in Detroit, while the Tigers were having their last pre-series workout, a kid came out on the field and was looking for Newhouser. And his message was that Mrs. Newhouser had called up and asked if Hal couldn't hurry home a little bit early because the movers were there. And Newhouser and his wife, a couple of young kids, very, very good-looking young kids they are, were moving the day before the series. And the night before the series, Newhouser slept in a strange place, and perhaps he was heir to all the back-breaking tasks that a husband has to go through when moving is underway. And the next day he was knocked out of the box. As far as Hank Baroy is concerned, as we mentioned on this broadcast the other day, his wife is not here because they're expecting a baby in the Baroy household. And Hank told me after we mentioned that the other day, everybody was calling up, including newspapermen who wanted to take pictures of the baby. They thought it was born while he was out here pitching. I'd like to pass on one other little bit of information before we move to Bill Corum, and that is that regardless of the outcome of the ball game today, Claude Passeau will be the starting pitcher for the Chicago Cubs tomorrow. The 36-year-old veteran pitching after a 2-day rest. But he threw only 109 pitches and registering the greatest triumph in World Series history in 39 years on Friday. And it will be Passeau tomorrow, the ace, as far as perfection is concerned, of the Chicago Cub pitching staff, and against Passeau will be Virgil Fire Trucks. So that is a little bit of the situation now as we're about 10 minutes away from the start of this 5th game here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Seated to the left of me now, and it's good luck for all of us, is the famous Sports Syndicate columnist, Bill Corum. And Bill has his usual smile and his usual fund of information for us. And now, friends, here's Bill Corum. Bill?
Thank you, Bill Slater. It's mighty nice to be here on this gorgeous wine-like October afternoon. The World Series has done us very well indeed this year because we started with bad weather in Detroit and gradually got better until this game, which is the game of the series, and coming very fortunately on Sunday when so many folks can listen to it, and we hope you all are. Wish you could be here with us because this is a baseball afternoon and this game is it. Whether Baroy or Hal Newhouser wins this game, I believe, will decide this 1945 World Series. Of course, it would be possible for the losing team to come back tomorrow and then win 2 straight, but there hasn't been the break in the series yet, and now I think we've come up to it with the lean, long, limber port-sider from Detroit against Baroy, the Jersey boy, almost as tall but a right-hander, and a very smart pitcher, a fellow with not as much stuff as Newhouser on the ball, but he knows the chore out there all right, as Mr. Baroy, and he sort of had a deep, dark indigo jinx against these Tigers ever since he came out of Fordham and started pitching Major League Baseball. Getting back to yesterday's game for a minute, Trout's performance was, his catcher Richard said, the best in 3 years, and certainly it was marvelous. I thought I knew after Cavaretta was called out for breaking his wrist. That's not actually, of course, but for half swinging on a third strike on a 3-2 pitch. And Mr. Trout took his glasses off and began looking up at the sun and wiping the mist off of him and giving the crowd jitters that he was home. That's when he begins to act that way. He's quite a pitcher, and that's what he was doing yesterday after he got rid of Cavaretta. He was head man from then on. When he's in trouble, why, Dizzy kind of lives up to his name. He gets to pitching very fast. One of the most popular players, of course, in all Detroit history, and one of the best liked all the way around the American League, and a great after-dinner speaker and genial soul, a lovable guy. It was great to see that Hoosier guy come through and win the ball game yesterday, no matter which side you're rooting for, because if you know Diz Trout, you got to root for him some. So, today we're going to have the payoff here before undoubtedly a capacity crowd, and of course the biggest World Series since the war, the biggest in every way. They just told me in there in the press box it's the biggest file in many years. Maybe will be if it goes 6 or 7 games, the biggest of all time. And mentioning these fine ushers out here at beautiful Wrigley Field, I think we ought to say that they're in charge of Andy Frame, a grand fellow who's had him ever since the Chicago World's Fair, goes down to Derby with him and does such a splendid job where everything runs so efficiently. The most efficiently run ballpark, in my opinion, in this whole country. The umpires are out there at the plate now, and they're all gathered around with the two managers, the man playing in center field. This, I was talking about the size of this series. Players will get the most money that they've ever gotten, I'm sure, something over $7,000. Of course, they finished sharing in the receipts yesterday, and the winning team will has a pool of $187,200.09 to be exact to cut up. That's out of a total pool of $445,714.50, and the losing team share will be $124,800.06. So I know that this will be a record because it's got to go over 7,000, and the best winning share previous to this, the biggest, was in 1935 when the Tigers, who don't win often but get rich when they do, picked up $6,544.76 each. Well, it's going to be the big show, and everything is set. The announcer is down there calling off the lineups, and that's all from me for now, folks. But I'll be back to give you a quick summary when the game ends.
Folks, let's think back a little to the early and dark days of the war at sea. The lifeboats filled with frozen bodies. Remember the flaming tankers off the Atlantic coast, luridly lighting our pleasure beaches? Remember the Blitz on London's docks, the perilous dash through the Mediterranean where the Luftwaffe bombed and strafed? Well, if you do, and who doesn't, you'll take your hat off to the men who dared and died to deliver the goods, the American Merchant Marine. And they are still delivering the goods, sticking to their ships. Right now, our merchant fleet is busier than ever and needs more licensed officers and seamen with certificates. If you are qualified, write or wire collect to Merchant Marine, Washington 25, D.C. Standby pay starts immediately upon acceptance. And now here we are, just moments away from the start of the 5th game of the 1945 World Series, and here are the batting orders. For Detroit, the leadoff hitter will be the shortstop, Skeeter Webb. Batting number 2 will be Mayo, the second baseman. Batting number 3 will be Kramer, the center fielder. Batting number 4 is Greenberg, the left fielder. Batting number 5 is Cullenbine, the right fielder. Batting 6th is York, the first baseman. Batting 7th is Outlaw, the third baseman. Batting 8th is Richards, the catcher. And batting 9th and pitching is Hal Newhouser. Here is the batting order for the Chicago Cubs, the homestanding team. The leadoff hitter will be Hammerin Hank, the third baseman. Batting number 2 will be Don Johnson at second base. Batting third will be Peanuts Lowry, the left fielder. Batting fourth will be Cavaretta, the first baseman. Batting number 5 will be Patco, the center fielder. Batting 6 will be Nicholson, the right fielder. Batting 7th will be Livingston, the catcher. Batting 8th will be Len Marilla, who's playing at shortstop. And batting 9th will be Baroe, the pitcher. There are the batting orders, and now, ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem. here are the umpires for this afternoon. Billy Summers of the American League is at home plate. Lou Jordan of the National League is at first base. Art Passarello of the American League is at second base. And Jocko Conlon of the National League is at third base. Now the Cubs are in the field. Behind the plate is Mickey Livingston, their catcher. At first, of course, is Phil Cabaretta. At second baseman is Don Johnson. And at shortstop is Len Murillo, starting for the first time in the series. At third base is Stan Hack. In left field is Peanuts Lowry. He's talking to someone in the crowd right now. In center field is Andy Papcorn. In right field is Bad Bill Nicholson. And Baroli is now striding to the mound. So this game is about to get underway in just a couple of moments. And just before it does, as the high moment comes up here in this fifth World Series, let's pause just 10 seconds for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.
Now Steve O'Neill of the Tigers steps into the third base coaching box. Art Mills is coaching at first. The leadoff hitter for the Tigers, Skeeter Webb, the shortstop, is about to step up there. And now about to step up to our microphone to bring you the play-by-play description of the first 4.5 innings of this important World Series ball game here at Wrigley Field in beautiful Chicago is Al Helper with a big smile on his face and his pencil and his tongue all ready to get going. All right, Al.
Well, thank you, Bill. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we are ready for the fifth game of the World Series right here at beautiful Wrigley Field in Chicago. And the only change in the starting lineups, as have been announced for the first 4 games, is that Hughes has been taken out at shortstop for Chicago, and Len Murillo of East Boston, Massachusetts, has been injected into the Cub lineup. And the lineups given you by Bill Slater is correct. The lineup for Chicago and the lineup for Detroit. And now we're about ready to go with the first batter up here for Detroit. That's Skeeter Webb, hitting at 188 for his play in the series. And Hank Baroli, who has once beaten these Tigers in the series, is ready. Makes his first pitch, and it's swung on and fouled off into the screen for strike 1. I had a long talk with Hank just before the game, and he was very much concerned about the ball game today. He said, there's only one thing I'd like you to do for me, Al. And I said, what's that, Hank? He said, I'll just tell the folks back home that I'm all right and I'm out there gunning for this second. So I had a talk with Hal Newhouser, and he said the same thing that you Detroit fans would want to know about. Now Baroli is ready. Pitches another fast curve low under the knees of Webb. That levels the count off at 1-1. This is the top half of the first inning, and this is the very first batter up, Skeeter Webb. He went 0 for 5 yesterday, didn't get a base hit. He swings on his next pitch, and there's a slow roller to third. Stanley Hack comes up with it nicely on a big hop, throws to first, and that's all for Webb. Going out 5-3. We had some inquiry of what we meant by 5-3. We should like to explain it very quickly. All the men out on the diamond being numbered. And in this particular case, the third baseman happens to be number 5. So when he throws that ball over to the first baseman, who is number 3, that means the man has rolled out 5-3. So you start with the pitcher numbering 1, the catcher 2, the first baseman 3, the second baseman 4, the third baseman 5, and the shortstop 6. Now here's Eddie Mayo, swinging on the first pitch and fouls it right back into the screen for strike 1. Eddie Mayo is hitting number 2 and playing second base for Detroit, so his number defensively will be 4. Hank Baroli takes his sign again from Mickey Livingston. Fordham Hank pumps, delivers a medium-speed curveball. It's hit out into left field. There goes Peanuts Lowry over near the line. He can't get it. It drops in, perhaps for extra bases, but rounding first base, Eddie Mayo trips, stumbles, falls on his face, and gets up in time to get back to first safely. That was a long single hit out into left field by Eddie Mayo. He hit an outside pitch, dumped it into left field right along the foul line, and may have gotten to second, but he stumbled and fell as he rounded first base. And that's the very first hit in the ball game, and Baroli gives it up to Detroit's number 2 hitter. Now hitting in the number 3 spot is the center fielder, Doc Kramer. Kramer's hitting at .357 for the series. He has 5 for 14. He's a left-hand hitter, stands deep at the plate, and sort of guards it from behind. Baroli serves him one up. It's a medium-speed curve that's outside and high for ball 1. So the Tigers here in the top of the first inning with 1 out have Eddie Mayo on at first base. Baroli stretches, goes over to first. Mayo jumps in ahead of it. Phil Cabaretta returns that ball to the mound. With Doc Kramer up there hitting left-handed, the outfield is spanned around to right and playing deep. Down comes the pitch, and his ball hit right back to the mound. Hank Baroli knocks it down, picks it up, throws to first base, and that is all for Kramer. On the play, Eddie Mayo goes into second base. Well, that's the second out here for the Detroit Tigers. That certainly was not a sacrifice, as Kramer was hitting away, and he hit that ball solidly and wrapped it right back at the shins of Hank Baroy. Hank knocked it down all right, and for the moment couldn't find it. He quickly pounced on it and threw it across to first base. Now here's Hank Greenberg. Hank Greenberg yesterday had one base hit in 3 tries, had himself a single to left field. In the series, Hank is hitting at .273. He's had 3 for 11, one of them a home run. Hank, a tall right-hand hitter, swings on the first pitch and doesn't get it. Strike one. Baroy had a fast curve dancing just under the lettering of the shirt and on the inside corner of the plate. 0-2 down for Detroit here in the top of the first inning. Eddie Mayo is on at second base. There's no score in his 5th game of the series. Baroy delivers. Greenberg swings and misses. That's strike 2. No balls, 2 strikes. That's the count on right-hand hitting Hank Greenberg. He can really powder that potato. Hank Baroy knows it. Baroy carefully sets, delivers a fastball, swung on and missed for strike 3. That was foul-tipped. It was foul-tipped. We'll have to take that all back. Got just enough of it to tip it foul, and Mickey Livingston didn't hold it. So immediately, the plate umpire, Billy Summers, turned around and gave us a sign. Tell us that Hank Greenberg's batting life at the plate was still preserved. Baroy throws again, and Greenberg swings. There's a ball hit down to Stanley Hack at third. He picks it up after muffing it, throws over to first base, not nearly in time, and the runner is safe at first base. Stanley Hack tried to grab a hot ground ball at his feet and had it get away from him about 5 feet. He scampered after it and picked it up and made his throw over to Phil Cavaretta. It was a hurried throw, and Phil had to dive out to his right to scoop it up. And by the time Cavaretta had picked that ball up, Hank Greenberg was on at first base, and Mayo had scampered into third, and that's how the situation now stands. Runners at first and third. It's an error, all right. It's going to be an error, and it's going to be on Stanley Hack. So Greenberg is on. And the batter is Roy Cullenbine, hitting left-handed. That's the first error in this afternoon's play, and it's charged up to Stanley Hack, who very seldom ever commits them. Roy pitches to Cullenbine, who swings on this pitch, and there's a foul ball down the left field line and back into the stands for strike 1. Here's a situation in the top half of inning number 1. Eddie Mayo is on at third. Big Hank Greenberg is on at first. There are 2 outs, and there's no score. And Cullenbine, who is hitting at .091, he has 1 hit in 11 tries. He's up at the plate. Hank Baroy settles down now, delivers the plate. Cullenbine swings, and there's a long drive going out into left field, and it is in foul territory by about a foot. There it is, the Detroit Tigers. And all run that down. Third base umpire, Jocko Conlon, of the National League, says no. That's in foul territory. It was very close. Hit very close to the left field line. Steve O'Neill doesn't put up too much of a protest. Coming back into the diamond now is Conlon. Steve O'Neill is talking to Conlon. However, the runners are all being called back. Eddie Mayo goes back to third, and Greenberg moves back to first base. Greenberg is now talking to plate umpire Bill Summers. The public address announcer is just telling the thousands here at the Wrigley Field what we've already told you. But on the play at third base, Hack was charged with an error. We've already told you about it. So Roy Cullenbine has to go back to the plate. There's still a rhubarb growing down behind home plate with Bill Summers and Steve O'Neill. And now Jocko Conlon is being called down from third base where he's been umpiring. Jocko Conlon is the one that called that hit as a foul ball into the corner in left field. Steve O'Neill is still talking to Conlon, but the decision is going to stand. It was a foul ball hit out behind left field. It was just foul by inches. It was a very close decision, and Jocko Conlon, the umpire, was riding it all the way. So it goes back now to the status of a man at first and a man at third. 2 outs, top of the first inning. No score, and the batter is Cullenbine, and his count is no balls, 2 strikes. And Baroy, probably feeling a great deal better about it all, is ready to pitch once more to Cullenbine, hitting left-handed. Baroy settles down now, delivers. And Columbine takes a fast one up. A call strike 3. That's the first strikeout of the ball game. Roy gives it up. No runs. 1 hit, 2 men left, and there was 1 error on the Chicago Ball Club. So the score at the end of the top of the first inning, Detroit nothing, and Chicago nothing. It takes a crackerjack ball team to win both ends of 20 doubleheaders in the season, as the Cubs did this year. Yes, and it takes a crackerjack shaving team to lick tough beard day after day, and to give you smooth, good-looking shaves that really rate. Fans to whisk off stubble as easy as a nut dusts off home plate. Do the job the all Gillette way. A, prepare your beard with Gillette shaving cream. B, skim it off smooth as silk with today's Gillette Blue Blade in your Gillette razor. It makes no difference which type of cream you prefer, Gillette lather or Gillette brushless. Both hold abundant moisture and are fast-acting, thorough-going beard softeners. Yes, and the Gillette razor and Gillette Blue Blade make up for the rest of the job and make it a cinch. Remember, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. Now for the last half of the first inning, and the Chicago Cubs are going to get their opportunity. The Detroit Tigers have already had theirs in the top of the first. It's a 0-0 ball game, and Stanley Hack, who had an error charged against him in the top of the first inning, is going to be the first hitter up for Chicago. Hack has had 6 hits and 17 at-bats here in this series. He went 0 for 4 yesterday, and he's hitting right now at .353. Out on the mound, Big Hal Newhouser, the 24-year-old left-hander. He's pumping before his first pitch now. Twists, delivers it down, and it's in there for a strike. As we started to tell you earlier, Al Newhouser said just before the game that he was really after this one. To let the folks back in Detroit know that he was really after it. He pitches now, and Hack takes a nice hook. It's just outside the ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. That's the count on Stanley Hack, the leadoff man for the Chicago Cubs. Newhouser bends that left elbow again, and Hack takes a high curve. It's outside again. That's ball 2. We set the Tigers for you defensively now. Newhouser on the mound. Paul Richards behind the plate. At first base is Rudy York. At second is Eddie Mayo. At shortstop, Skeeter Revan. At third is Jimmy Outlaw. Out in left field, St. Greenberg. In center, Buck Cromer. Out in right field, Roy Kellenbine. Newhouser throws a fast, low curve into the dirt. That's ball 3. Paul Richards very nicely came up with it. So the count on Stanley Hack, the first Chicagoan up here in the last half of the first inning, is 1 strike and 3 balls. Those we've always given it to, 3-1. Newhouser throws 3-1, and it's in for a strike. Paul just rolled back and came down with the fastball and scored right over the knees and right through the middle. So this is the first 3-2 count we've had in this afternoon's ball game. Hack hitting left-handed, swings on his next pitch, and there's a ball hit foul back at third base. Charlie Grimm, coaching down behind third, jumped up and spun all the way around, slapped his hands together. Boy, he's a show all of his own. Charlie played a pretty smart tune on that banjo of his, too. Now the next 3-2 delivery on Stanley Hack. It's thrown in there, and Hack swings on it, fouls it back into the netting. The count stays at 3-2. No score in this ball game between Detroit and Chicago. Detroit picked themselves up a hit in the first inning, but got no farther. Newhouser delivers a fast, low curve on the outside. He gets away from Richards, and Stanley Hack just moves on down to first base on ball 4 and doesn't try for anything more. So Hack has walked to start the last half of the first inning. Newhouser gave up 5 bases on balls pitching the first game against Chicago, and of course in the World Series now, this is the 6th one that he has given up. The batter is Don Johnson, hitting right-handed.
Second baseman.
Hitting in the series at .235. Newhouser pitches a fast curve. It's in and over nicely for called strike 1. No outs, last half of the first. Chicago has Stanley Hack on at first. He was walked. And this is Johnson, who yesterday tripled. He swings on a high curve and fouls it back into the netting. Now he's counter strike 2. Johnson had 2 hits and 4 tries in yesterday's ball game. And as we've said, 1 a triple. For the series, he's had 4 hits and 17 at-bats, hitting at .235. Right-hand hitter standing deep at the plate. Newhouser curves him, and another one is swung on. There's another foul back onto the screen. So the count stays right on at no balls, 2 strikes. This is Don Johnson, the second baseman, hitting for Chicago. Hack takes a short lead at first. Rudy York straddled on the inside corner as Newhouser delivers to the plate. It's swung on and missed. For strike 3, and that's all for Johnson. Well, that's Newhouser's first strikeout. He struck out 4 the last time he faced Chicago. That was the opening day at Briggs Stadium in Detroit. So now in the series, he struck out 5. Little Harry Lowry, who had 1 hit and 4 tries yesterday, is coming up to the plate. He's doing pretty well, this right-hand hitter. That's 5 for 16 for the series, hitting it 3-1-3. Newhouser throws a hook in there that's hit down to second base. Mayo comes up with it, and the base runner is trapped. That's Hack, but the throw goes to first base. And now Hack is midway between first and second. He's being run down by Rudy York and by Skeeter Webb. Rudy York. And then Mayo gets the ball from Rudy York and runs Stanley Hack down and tags him out. So it's actually a double play. Lowry hits down to second base to Eddie Mayo and is thrown after Rudy York. And then York relayed that ball back to Skeeter Webb, the shortstop covering at second. And the ball came back to York. Then York fired that ball to Eddie Mayo, who had gotten back into the play, and the double play was effective. So Hack was tagged out by Mayo, who ran him down on the base paths. So in the first inning, no runs, no hits. Nobody left and there were no errors. So at the end of 1 full inning of play, the score stands 0-0. Well, each day since the opening of this World Series, we've been explaining how these games are being broadcast to our servicemen and women overseas. How through the far-flung network of the Armed Forces Radio Service, our play-by-play descriptions are being shortwaved from San Francisco to Japan, China, Alaska, South America, to the Philippines, and to our Navy ships throughout the Pacific. From New York, they are beamed over the Atlantic to England, France, Germany, Italy, and to the Far East. We are happy to say that the Armed Forces Radio Service are receiving these wires from all over the world, telling them that the reception of the game so far has been excellent, and we're certainly very glad of that. Now we're waiting for the top of the second inning. The first man up for Detroit is going to be Rudy York, the big first baseman, the Detroit Tigers. York's coming up for his first at-bat today. He went 0 for 3 yesterday. Roy comes down with his first pitch. It's a low curve. It's swung on and missed by Rudy for strike 1. York so far in the series is hitting at 154. He has 2 hits for 13 tries. The big right-hand hitter stands very deep at the plate. Takes his next pitch, and it's right through there for a called strike as Roy came down with a fast hook. So the count on Rudy York is no balls, 2 strikes. There's no score in this game between Detroit and Chicago. This is the 5th game of the series. Now Roy tries a high curve on Rudy York this time and misses completely with it. So the count on York is 1 ball, 2 strikes. He's the first Tiger up here in the top of the second inning. Roy pumps once, twists, throws a fast hook in there, swung on and missed for a strike. And that's the 3rd one. So York goes down via the strikeout route. And that is the 2nd strikeout for Roy. Now here comes little Jimmy Outlaw, the 3rd baseman. Jimmy yesterday got 1 base hit in 4 tries. And for the series, he's hitting 3 for 15, or a percentage of 200. Jimmy's a choke hitter, hits right-handed, and has his legs wide spread apart. Roy tries a curve on him that's good at the plate. So, of course, his count is quickly strike 1. 1 out for Detroit here in the top of the second inning, and there's no score in the ball game. Roy throws a 3/4 overhand pitch. It's hit out into right field. Going over for it is Nicholson, and he grabs it easily for the out, and that's all for Outlaw. Nicholson making the catch in right field. That's the 2nd out here in the top of the second inning. Was that the Chicago Cubs for you? Roy is pitching, Livingston is catching. At first base is Phil Cavaretta. At second base is Don Johnson. At shortstop is Len Marullo. At third base, Stanley Hack. Peanuts Lowry is in left field. Andy Pafko in center, and Bill Nicholson is in right. Now here's Paul Richards at the plate. He got 1 hit yesterday in 4 tries. Roy curves him low and on the inside. Bites into the dirt, gets away from Mickey Livingston. Of course, that's just ball 1. 1 ball, no strikes. Richards has a batting percentage of .091 for the series. He's had 1 hit in 11 tries. He's right along with Cullenbine in that respect. Now Richards, tall Texan, moves up to the plate. Waits for Roy's next offering. Hank pumps it. Throws. There's a high curve swung on and missed. Or strike 1. This guy Richards apparently likes high curves. He swung at quite a few of them yesterday. 1-1 is the count on Richards. Roy tries another high curve, and Richards ignores it. It's up above the lettering of the shirt. Of course, that's ball 2. 2 balls, 1 strike. 2 outs. Top of the second inning. No score. No base runners. Roy warming to his task now. Pumps once more. Delivers the plate. It's a fastball swung on and fouled off into the screen. 2-2 count on Paul Richards, the Detroit catcher. Hal Newhouser is scheduled to hit next in case another hitter is needed. This ball game has been pretty tight right up until this moment. Roy has given up the only hit in the ball game. Now he's ready. Throws 2-2 to the plate. Richards takes high for ball 3. Now quickly the count is 3-2 on Paul Richards. Roy monkeying around a little bit on the mound. Takes his sign from Livingston, who holds the mid up as a target now. Down rides the pitch. The 3-2 count is swung on. There's a high pop-up back of shortstop into left field. Peanuts Lowry comes charging in, and Rulo falls away, and Lowry, the left fielder, comes on to make the catch. So that's all for Detroit here in the second inning. Nothing across. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. Well, to slugging left-handed Nick Etten, a couple of years ago, fell one of the toughest assignments in baseball. That of covering the immortal Lou Gehrig's post at first base for the New York Yankees. Nick heads the department for batting in runs and knows the answers plenty well. Tell us, Nick Etten, what's the number 1 razor blade in the Yankee locker room?
Well, the only blade I ever see used around there are the Gillette Blue blades.
Well, give the fans a lowdown, will you, Nick?
Glad to, Al. The Gillette Blue blade is the easiest shaving blade I ever used. It just skims your stubble off and leaves your face feeling smooth and refreshed.
Thanks, Nick Etten, and take it from me, fans. Men the world over say all of that and plenty more. So why not ask your dealer for Gillette Blue blades? They should be easier to get now, and they always give you tops in shaving luxury. Remember, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. Now for the last half of inning number 2 right here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. The first man up for the Cubs is going to be Phil Cavarretta. The star first baseman of the Cubs went hitless yesterday and struck out a couple of times, and that wasn't to his liking. Phil's a mighty good ball player, and he's hitting at .357 for the series. Out on the mound, Big Hal Newhouser gets ready and delivers a fast hook to a left-handed hitter, and it's low for ball 1. 1 ball, no strikes. This is Cavarretta up hitting for the Cubs. That's from a very severe crouch. Pushes a very nice bunt down toward first base on the next pitch. Richards picks that ball up and fires it to Rudy York just in time, and that's all for Cavarretta. That guy Richards came out from behind the plate and pounced on that bunt just like a big cat, and grabbed that ball and fired it into the waiting mitt of Rudy York at first base. And Cavarretta was snuffed out. Now Andy Pafko comes walking up there. Pafko went 0 for 4 yesterday also. He's hitting a .214 for the series. He has 3 hits for 14 tries. Very fleet-of-foot center fielder, hits right-handed. Curve on him, and it's under his knees for ball 1. 1 ball, no strikes. Last half of the second inning, and there's no score in this ball game. Newhouser delivers a high hook. It's outside for ball 2. Newhouser kicking dirt around at the mound. Looks down at Richards and takes his sign now. Pafko waits. Takes the next and a fast curve off the hips on the inside for ball 3. The Detroit outfield is fanned around slightly to left, and Hank Greenberg is playing very deep out in left field. Here comes Newhouser's 3-0 delivery. 3 balls, no strikes on Andy Pafko. The little fella takes this one, and it's right in there for a strike. So the automatic one goes up on the boards. Newhouser ready, throws 3-1. Pafko swings on a 3-1 pitch and hits a foul ball on the ground back at first base. Rudy York picks it up, looks it over, hands it over to Hal Newhouser. The count is 3-2. 3 balls, 2 strikes on Pafko. And he gets himself a double handful of dirt, dries his hands off, steps back up to the batter's box. Out on the mound for Detroit, Hal Newhouser. Got himself all ready for this next 3-2 delivery. There's 1 out for Chicago here in the last of the second. Now here's Newhouser's 3-2 delivery to the plate. Pafko swings and misses for strike 3. So Papko goes down on strikes. That's Newhouser's second strikeout. Now both he and Baroy have struck out 2 men apiece. Bill Nicholson is coming up to the plate now for Chicago. Bill has 4 hits for 15 at-bats in the series so far, and he's hitting at .267. However, like Cabaretta and Papko, he's 0 for 4 in yesterday's game. He's a left-handed hitter that crouches over, and he takes the first pitch on the outside from Newhouser for ball 1. Bill swishing that bat back and forth. As we've told you, he's a very belligerent-looking gentleman. Newhouser pours a fast one through there for a strike. Now it's 1-1. 1 ball, 1 strike on Bill Nicholson. He's the right fielder of the Chicago Cubs. 2 outs here for the Cubs in the last half of the second inning. No base runners, and there's no score in the game. It's Newhouser and Baroy dueling this afternoon here at the Windy City. Nicholson swings on the next pitch and hits a ground ball down to Rudy York, who goes down on one knee, picks it up, races over to first, and Nicholson is out. So that's all for the Cubs here in the last of the second inning, and they go down in order. No runs, no hits, nobody left, and there were no errors. At the end of 2 full innings of play, the score stands 0-0. For Detroit, they have no runs, 1 hit, and they've committed no errors. While for the Chicago Cubs, they have no runs, they've got no hits off Newhouser, and they've committed 1 error. So we're going into the top of the third inning, but before we do, I believe we've got a few seconds here, about 10 of them, to pause for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.
Hank Baroy has just thrown the last of his warm-up pitches down here to start the top half of inning number 3 here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. The first man to face him will be Hal Newhouser, hitting left-handed. Newhouser has been up just once in the series, and he has gone 0 for 1. Nice round of applause for Hal as he came striding up to the plate. He's the 9th man to face Baroy here this afternoon. Hank takes his sign out, pumps once, throws to the plate, and Newhouser takes a curve on the inside down to the knees for ball 1. Newhouser chokes up slightly on the bat and stands forward at the plate with a completely closed stance. Baroy throws a curve this time, and it's an attempted bunt which goes foul down the third base line. So that makes it 1-1 on Hal Newhouser. Newhouser's a pretty good hitter. Matter of fact, for the season, he hit, if memory serves me rightly, 257. Baroy throws a curve in there that's good for a strike with Newhouser taking. So his count now is 1 ball, 2 strikes. 1-2 on Hal Newhouser. Outfield fans slightly around the right. Nicholson is deep. Baroy threw a curve just now that was very high and almost got away from Livingston. And, of course, Newhouser at the plate took it for ball 2. That levels the count right off at 2 balls, 2 strikes. Baroy pumping once more. Delivers. There's a fast one swung on and fouled right off the chest protector of plate umpire Summers. The count is 2-2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Just a very fast check on the year's statistics proves that Hal Newhouser actually did hit 257 for the year's work with the Tigers. The 2-2 pitch is thrown in there and swung on by Newhouser, missed completely for strike 3. So that's all for Newhouser. Now let's see, as far as Baroy is concerned, that's strikeout number 3. Strikeout number 5 in the game as Newhouser himself has struck out a couple. There's 1 away for Detroit here in the top of the third inning, and that brings up Skeeter Webb, the shortstop, hitting right-handed. He was thrown out by Stanley Hack back in the first inning. The right-hand hitter takes a high curve as Baroy goes to work, and that's ball 1. Webb in his last 6 at-bats hasn't been able to get a hit. Baroy comes down with a fast, low curve that's under the knees of Webb for ball 2. Webb stands just off the plate, crouches over slightly from the waist. Baroy shakes off Livingston now as he pumps the sign. Now nods his head. He'll throw this one. He comes down with it, and there's a high, fast curve off the point of the chin for a shave, and that's ball 3. 3 balls, no strikes. The outfield doesn't play Skeeter Webb very deep. He takes his next pitch, and it's right in there for a strike. So that makes the count 3-1 on Skeeter Webb. Well, right now, looks around at his father-in-law behind third, Steve O'Neill, managing the Detroit Tigers and coaching there at third. And he knows what to do about this 3-1 pitch if it's in there. But it's high, and on the inside for ball 4. Skeeter Webb, with one away, is walked. And that is the first base on balls given up by Baroy. He walked a few men in his stint at Detroit. So he walks one here this afternoon. That brings up Eddie Mayo, who has the only hit off Baroy. As a matter of fact, he has the only hit in the ball game. Baroy checks his runner at first. That's Skeeter Webb. Throws to the plate, and Mayo, a left-hand hitter, takes a fast curve just under the letters good for a strike. Mayo hit his single into left field back in the first inning, and he may have made a double out of it if he hadn't stumbled and fell as he was rounding first. Baroy checks first base once more, now delivers to the plate, and Smith swings on it, or rather Mayo swings on it, and slacks it into right field for a solid base hit. Webb is trying for third. There goes the throw by Nicholson down to third, but it's not nearly in time, and Webb is on at third. Mayo hit behind the runner into right field. Skeeter Webb was on the move and came right around to third on the base hit into right field. That is the second one given up by Baroy. And now with one away, the Tigers have runners at first and third. Second is open, and the batter is Doc Kramer. As Bill Slater just points out, that is the 4th hit that Eddie Mayo has gotten off Hank Baroy, and 6 times up against him. Hitting left-handed is Doc Kramer. He smashed one back to the box and was thrown out by Hank Baroy back in the first inning. Down comes the first pitch to him, and Kramer swings on it, and there's a long foul ball out back of left field, and it falls into the seats. That's a loud strike to Doc Kramer. So the Tigers here in the top of the third inning are threatening at Wrigley Field in Chicago. It's a scoreless ball game, but the Tigers have runners at first and third with one out. Down in the bullpen, Big Paul Derringer is getting ready for Chicago, just in case he's needed. Baroy throws easily over to first base just to keep Mayo glued on tightly. That Mayo's had 2 hits for 2 at-bats today. He's doing all right. Baroy sends in a high change-of-pace curve. It sort of floats up to the plate, but it's too high, and that's ball 1. Doc Kramer hitting left-handed has the count of 1-1. A couple of New Jersey guys working against each other. Now Baroy gets ready, checks his runners, throws to the plate. Kramer swings on it. There's a long fly ball going out deep into left center field, and there's a nice running catch out there by Andy Pafko in left center. And coming in very easily to score is Skeeter Webb, and the Tigers lead 1-0. Boy, that guy Pafko can really go. That was way back for the wall, almost 368 feet away from home plate, and that guy Pafko went and took it out in left center. So Kramer's out, but he bats in a run. Mayo had to hold right on at first base. But Skeeter Webb at third, tagged up and easily came in to score, so it's a 1-0 ball game in favor of Detroit. Now the batter is Hank Greenberg. Hank was on at first base in the first inning due to an error. There's a quick throw to first this time to try to catch Mayo, but it doesn't. Cavaretta returns the ball to the mound to Hank Baroy. Hank settles down now, delivers to the plate. Greenberg swings on it. There's a long drive deep into center field. There goes Pafko over in left center now. He's under it, makes a one-handed catch. Great day in the morning, that guy Pafko can run. He just took one in left center, and then he came right back and took one in right center. So here in the third inning for Detroit, 1 run, 1 hit, a man left. There were no errors. And listen to that round of applause for Pafko. Well, the score here is 1-0 in favor of Detroit over Chicago. When the old hit-and-run clicks, it may win a ball game. But fans, there's just no percentage in putting up with the hit-and-run shaves a fellow gets with run-of-the-mine razor blades. No, sir. Not when you can count on the Gillette Blue Blade to give you, as Yankee first baseman Nick Etten puts it, the slickest, easiest shaves a man can have. This blade has the sharpest edges ever produced. So sharp, so smoothly finished, so easy shaving that you just skim the stubble off. And what's more, those edges are hard enough to cut glass. So they stay sharp for one comfortable shave after another and save you money. Ask your dealer for Gillette Blue Blades, 5 for a quarter. They should be easier to obtain now. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. Now with the Cubs 1 run behind as the Detroit Tigers lead them 1-0, we're in the last half of the third inning, and Mickey Livingston is coming up for his first at-bat this afternoon. Hal Newhouser on the mound with 1 run to go on makes his first offering, and it's a high, fast curve on the outside to Mickey Livingston for ball 1. Livingston hitting right-handed. Yesterday, Mickey had 1 hit in 3 official at-bats. He's hitting .364 for the series at 4 for 11. He swings on this pitch, hits it off the end of his bat. It's rolling down toward first. Hal Newhouser picks it up and tags him out as he goes by. That Newhouser came off that mound awfully fast that time to pick up that slow roller down toward first. And he just tagged Mickey Livingston as he tried to pass him. So Livingston is out, being tagged out by the pitcher. And that's the first out in the last half of the third inning. There was a little argument coming up from the Cub bench for the moment that Livingston hadn't been given a chance. Now the batter is Len Marullo. This will be his first at-bat in the World Series. If you recall, he came in yesterday and ran and then played 1 inning at shortstop. The first pitch to him is swung on, and there's a high curve that he didn't get. That's at strike 1. Newhouser pumps, comes back with his next pitch, and Marullo, right-hand hitter, leans back from it. Takes ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike is the count on shortstop Len Marullo of the Chicago Cubs. We're in the last half of inning number 3 here at Wrigley Field, with the Detroit Tigers leading 1-0. Hal Newhouser, who is always pretty tough, especially in the front-running position as he now is making ready to throw 1-1 to right-hand hitting Len Marullo. He does, and Marullo takes a high, fast curve on the outside for ball 2. 2 balls, 1 strike. Marullo waggles that bat back and forth, then swings on the next pitch as a fast one is offered, and he fouls it off. So the count is 2-2. As we told you, Leonard Marullo, who stands 5'11 and a half, comes from East Boston, Massachusetts. And this is his real first opportunity in the World Series. Hughes has been playing at shortstop, but Hughes was lifted today and Marullo was put in by Charlie Grimm. So Len's up for his first at-bat of the day. Newhouser throws a low curve under his knees this time. That's ball 3. Now the count on Len is 3-2. 3 balls, 2 strikes. 1 out, last of the third, no base runners. The score, Tigers 1, the Cubs nothing. Newhouser, the southpaw, pumps, delivers. Marullo swings and misses for strike 3. That was a fast curve, just under the lettering of the shirt on the inside corner. So Marullo is struck out, and that gives Newhouser strikeout number 3. He levels off in that department with Baroy. They both have 3 strikeouts. Here's a round of applause for Hank Baroy. Hank Baroy coming up for his first at-bat of the afternoon. Baroy hit 3 times down at Briggs Stadium in Detroit, and he went 0 for 3. He's a right-hand batter. Swings on the first pitch, and Newhouser has a fast one in there that he misses for strike 1. Hank stands just about straight off the plate with a straightaway stance toward the pitcher. Holds that bat down with the knob, bends over slightly from the waist. There are 2 outs for the Cubs in the last half of the third inning. Baroy attempting to bunt the next pitch, fouls it off into the screen. So his count is strike 2. No balls, 2 strikes. The outfield doesn't play him very deep. They might get a surprise because, after all, Baroy can hit a long ball. Saw him hit a triple at the Yankee Stadium the 4th part of the year that was really a rousing triple. He swings on this next pitch, and there's a ball hit just past outlawed third and out into left field. Roy is trying for second base. Here comes the throw from Hank Greenberg to second, but it's not nearly in time. It's a double for Hank Baroy. Pitcher Hank Baroy spiked a hot line drive right past Jimmy Outlaw at third base, right between Outlaw and the third base bag. and hit it down into the left field corner for a double. And that is the first hit given up by Hal Newhouser this afternoon. And it's an extra base blow. Now the batter is Stanley Camfield Hank. Stanislaus is coming up for his first official at-bat. He was walked in the first inning. Newhouser delivers him a high curve on the inside for ball one. So the potential tying run for Chicago is on at second base in the person of Hank Baroy. He did it himself. The ringing double down the left field line. Newhouser looks at this left-handed hitter, Stanley Hack, and serves him a curve that's outside for ball two. 2 balls, no strikes. 2 out for Chicago in the last of the third. Baroy with his double is on at second in scoring position. Newhouser delivers the plate and Hack takes it. And it's right through there for a strike. So the count on the Chicago third baseman. 2 balls, 1 strike. The score is 1-0 in favor of the Tigers, but the Cubs have an opportunity of locking this ball game up right here in the third inning. Newhouser throws. Hack takes a fast one in for a strike. Curve that started high and bit down and over. So it's a 2-2 count on Stanley Hack. Hank Baroy taking quite a lead off second base. And the second baseman, Mayo, tried to sneak in behind him. Thus the roar from the crowd to warn Hank. So he got back in time. Now the pitch to the plate is swung on by Hack. There's a solid base hit to center field. Baroy comes running around third, moves on in the score, and it's a tied-up ball game at 1-1. What a spot for Stanley Hack to pick to hit his 7th one here in the World Series. He drilled that very solidly into center field for a base hit, and Hank Baroy, who was really moving, came around third, and Charlie Grimm waved him on in, and it's a tied-up ball game at 1-1. Newhouser delivering now to right-hand hitter Don Johnson, and Johnson swings and misses for strike one. And this ball game has taken on a new complexion. It's all tied up at 1-1. Newhouser throws, and Johnson takes a curve right off his belt buckle. And that makes the count 1-1. 1 ball, 1 strike. So with 2 away, Hank Baroy started it off for the Chicago Cubs with a double. And then Hack followed through with a single to score it. Hack steps off at first. There's a throw over to first, and Hack is cut off. He's trying for second. The throw goes from York down to Skeeter Webb. Hack slides, but he's out. So Hack was actually picked off. That is the third out. He was picked off on a throw from the pitcher that went to the first baseman, and then down to Skeeter Webb, the shortstop, covering at second. So here in the third inning, the Chicago Cubs picked themselves up 1 run on a pair of hits. Nobody left, and there were no errors. So at the end of 3 full innings of play, it's a 1-1 ball game between the Detroit Tigers and the Chicago Cubs. And this ball game is locked up just as tight as anything you ever saw. And for the 4th inning, the first man up for the Tigers will be Roy Cullenbine, and Roy, in the first inning, struck out. He'll be followed in by Rudy York, who is also a strikeout victim for his only time at the plate today. And then will come Jimmy Outlaw. Those are the 3 hitters up for Detroit in the top half of inning number 4. A round of applause is for Hank Baroy as he comes striding to the mound. Well, the old Fordham Ghost got his ball club back into the game. Well, with 2 away in the last half of the third inning, his double spiked very solidly along the left field line and down into the corner, allowed him to take second base. And then Hack, a moment later, hit into center field very solidly for a base hit to allow Hack to come around from, or allow Baroy to come around from second base to score. So we have a 1-1 ball game on the works here at Wrigley Field in Chicago on this bright, brilliant, sunny afternoon. We'd just like to say, too, that down at Pearl Harbor, that they've just completed what is known as the Navy World Series down there, with the National League team led by Billy Herman, winning 4-3 and taking the series. And Schoolboy Rowe, who used to pitch for these Detroit Tigers, was running the American League aggregation. All made up of players out there that formerly served in the National and American Leagues. So I imagine the boys out there feel pretty happy about their little World Series, too. Now here in the 4th inning is Cullenbine. Roy pitches in, and Cullenbine takes a high curve on the outside. That's ball one. Roy very carefully studying each pitch. Pumps once now and throws. Cullenbine swings, and there's a high foul up onto the screen. Behind. So his count now is 1-1. 1 ball, 1 strike. This is Cullenbine hitting for Detroit in the top of the 4th inning. The score, Detroit 1 and Chicago 1. These teams are locked up, you know. Each have won 2 games in the 4 that have been played. Roy tries a curve that slides off outside for ball 2. The count now on switch hitter Roy Cullenbine, who is hitting left-handed now against the right-handed offerings of Hank Roy, is 2-1, 2 balls, 1 strike. Cullenbine with his legs wide spread apart. Takes a high curve as Roy tries a change of pace, and that means it's ball 3. 3-1 is the count now on Cullenbine. Anything can happen in this ball game. The way it's going, likely to move along like this and suddenly explode. The 3-1 pitch is swung on by Cullenbine. There's a high pop-up back of second. Coming over for it is second baseman Johnson. He takes it right in front of Murillo. And that's all for Cullenbine. Popping up and out to second baseman Don Johnson. So Cullenbine is out, and that brings up Rudy York. Rudy, with those big, wide, square shoulders of his and thick-set chest, comes digging in there at the plate. Hank Roy, out on the mound, heaves a big sigh. Hank's very slender and very pale. Looks more like a banker than a baseball player. Delivers, and big Rudy York swings on it and fouls it back into the screen for strike 1. That outfield is really moving back on Rudy York. They can remember that 400-foot drive he put out in Briggs Stadium that was caught by Andy Pafko. This fellow can wallop that potato. He swings on this next one, and there's a high foul ball again coming back onto the screen. Of course, that means it's strike 2 to Big Rudy. York struck out in the 2nd inning. His only time up this afternoon. He went 0 for 3 yesterday, so it means he's 0 for 4. 2 days' work so far. He has 2 for 13 for the work in the series. He swings on this next pitch and lifts a high fly ball into straightaway center field. Pafko comes under it. He's got it. So that's all for York. Flying out to Andy Pafko, the Chicago center fielder. 2 away for Detroit now in the top of the 4th inning. The batter is Jimmy Outlaw. Little Jimmy, who hits right-handed, came up in the 2nd inning, laced himself a fly ball to right field that was gathered in by Bill Nicholson. So he's hit 3 for 16 so far for the series. Roy comes down with a medium-speed curveball that's over the knees and right through the middle, good for a strike. Outlaw's hugging up on that plate a little tighter than he was his last at-bat. Chokes up a little more on the handle of the wood. Takes the next pitch, and it's right off the point of his cap. That's ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2 outs, top of the 4th, no base runners. The score, Detroit 1, Chicago 1. We've got quite a ball game going here at Wrigley Field this afternoon. Roy winds, delivers a high, fast curve that almost got away from Livingston. And that's ball 2. 2 balls, 1 strike. Len Murillo at shortstop is pulled down a little more toward the third base line. He's playing deep in the hole at shortstop. Playing right on the edge of the grass. Now Roy delivers 2-1, and it's swung on. There's a high foul ball going back into the second tier back of first base. The count on Outlaw is 2 balls, 2 strikes. Roy rubbing up a new ball. Looks down at Outlaw. This Outlaw's not very big. He stands 5 feet 8. He swings on this next pitch, and there's another foul ball, again back of first base. And it drops untouched just for the wall. Right over to the Tiger dugout. Bill Cavaretto went racing over there for it, and so did catcher Mickey Livingston, but neither one could quite get up to it. So the count rides along at 2-2 on Jimmy Outlaw. Hank Roy, after visiting the Rosenbag, comes walking back up to the mound. Livingston replaces his mask and gets down to pump his sign. Roy looks back at the outfield, sees that they're playing just where he wants them to. Now looks at Jimmy Outlaw, Starts his pumping motion for the 2-2 delivery. Down it comes. A medium-speed curveball swung on and missed for strike 3. That's all for Outlaw. So there's nothing across for Detroit here in the top half of the 4th inning. Roy hangs up strikeout number 4. So at the end of 3.5 innings of play, the score stands Detroit 1 and Chicago 1. As lots of fans see it, the best seats in the stands are right behind the plate. Others want to sit near first base. Many like to be opposite third. Yes, and plenty of fellows prefer to sit in the bleachers. Now, I don't know how you feel about brushless shaving cream, but I'm certain about one thing. If you're a brushless fan, you'll prefer Gillette brushless. Whiskers are oily, therefore moisture-resistant. So to soak them thoroughly and do the job quickly, you should remove the oil from them. Gillette brushless does that trick almost instantly. It readies your whiskers for soaking and holds plenty of water right at the shaving line where it counts. For faster shaves, plus extra comfort, try Gillette brushless when your dealer has it in stock. It's grease-free, so it rinses instantly and can't clog your razor or wash bowl drain. If you like brushless, you'll prefer Gillette brushless. Now for the last half of inning number 4 here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. It's a tied-up ball game at 1-1. The Tigers won and the Cubs won. Pretty close, pretty hard-fought ball game. The first batter up for Chicago here in the 4th inning is going to be second baseman Don Johnson. He struck out in the 1st inning and was left waiting at the altar, if you recall, as Hack was picked off at first base back in the 3rd inning. Now Newhouser left hands the first pitch into a right-hand hitter, and it's a fast one up above the letters. A ball 1. Don Johnson stands almost straight up and down. Holds that bat high off his right shoulder and stands straight off the plate. He swings on the next pitch, and there's a high fly ball out into center field. Doc Kramer's under this one, and he's got it for the out. That's all for Johnson, the fly ball to Doc Kramer in center field. That's one away for Chicago in the last half of inning number 4. Peanuts Lowry, who in the 1st inning smacked into a peculiar double play, is coming up now for his second at-bat. Well, he's 0 for 1 for his stick work today. Little right-handed hitter crouching over the plate. Newhouser pours a fast one in there that's good for a strike. Little Peanuts leaning over now. Big Newhouser on the mound throws. There's a fast curve high off the peak of the cap. That's ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike on Peanuts Lowry. 1 out for the Cubs, last half of the 4th inning. Newhouser sends a medium-speed curve in there that's hit down to shortstop. Skeeter Webb digs it out of the dirt, fires it into Rudy York at first, and Lowry is out. Lowry goes down, being thrown out by the Detroit shortstop, Skeeter Webb. That's the second out here in the last half of the 4th inning. And Phil Cavaretta is coming up for his second at-bat. In the 2nd inning, he was thrown out by catcher Richards. Newhouser serves him up a wide hook that just bites over the outside corner, good for a called strike. Cavaretta stands very deep at the plate, hits left-handed, and crouches way over. Newhouser throws him a curve that swung on and missed. That's strike 2. No balls, 2 strikes on Cavaretta. 2 down, nobody on in the 4th inning. Newhouser pumping again. Throws a fast delivery in there for called strike 3, and Cavaretta knew it. So for Chicago in the 4th inning, nothing across, no runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. And that's strikeout number 4 for Newhouser. He's even Steven in that department with Hank Baroe. Well, you know, every Friday night is fight night on the air. Yes, Gillette's Cavalcade of Sports airs the major fistic event of the week every Friday night the year round. Plan to be at radio ringside and enjoy the excitement blow by blow. Tune in Gillette's Cavalcade of Sports every Friday night for a rousing boxing match. Consult your daily newspaper for time and station. Now, before the first half of the 5th inning comes up here at Wrigley Field in Chicago, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.
Now for the first half of inning number 5 of the 5th game of the World Series. And this ball game being played right here at Wrigley Field in the windy city of Chicago. And the first man up for Detroit is going to be Paul Richards, the Detroit catcher. Paul came up in the second inning and sent a fly ball out into left field, where Peanuts Lowry made a pretty nice catch. Now Hank Baroy, who has given up a pair of hits to Detroit, throws the first pitch here, and Richards smacks it right back through the middle and out into center field on the ground all the way for a single. So Richards is on here in the fifth inning, and that is hit number 3 off Baroy. Richards safely on there at first base. Al Newhouser comes striding to the plate. Newhouser walking in there. He struck out in the third inning, did Hal. He's working up a little more on the handle of the bat now and hits left-handed. Baroy checks first, throws to the plate, and an attempted bunt is fouled off to the right of the plate. And just as soon as Hank Baroy fired that ball down to the plate, Phil Cavaretta and Stanley Hack, the first and third baseman, both came charging in to cover that bunt should it be forthcoming. Al Newhouser waiting again for Baroy to throw once more. Down comes the pitch, and there's another attempted bunt that's fouled off into the screen. So very quickly, the count is strike 2 on Hal Newhouser. And with the count of strike 2, the big danger of a bunt has gone by the boards. Because if Newhouser should attempt to bunt now and foul it off, he will be registered as struck out. No balls, 2 strikes is a count on Hal Newhouser. Paul Richards opened this fifth inning with a single, back through the middle, and he's on at first. He's starting for second base now, as the pitch is swung on by Newhouser and fouled back onto the screen. So with the count no balls, 2 strikes, Richards was moving for second. Steve O'Neill, the manager of Detroit, had sent him down. Newhouser trying to protect the runner and trying to hit behind him, fouled it off. So the count stays no balls, 2 strikes on Newhouser. Paul Richards again takes his lead at first base. It's a 1-1 ball game between Detroit and Chicago, and Detroit trying to move a man to second. Baroy looks over at first, now delivers the plate. Newhouser swings and foul tips it. So the count stays 0-2. Richards that time was not breaking. Newhouser doesn't step out of batter's box. He has his spikes glued firmly there, and he's going to remain right in batter's box and wait for the next pitch. Baroy checks the runner, Richards at first, back over his shoulder. Now delivers to the plate, and it's swung on and hit down to second base. Johnson comes up with it. The play is to Marulo for 1 out. The throw to first, a double play. Well, that was a snappy piece of work on the infield. That double play went from the second baseman, Johnson, to the shortstop, Len Marulo, and the throw went over to first base to Phil Cavaretta. And the man caught in the middle of that double play was Richards. So very quickly, there are 2 outs now in the top of the fifth inning, and each side has come up with a double play. The batter now is Skeeter Webb. He was walked in the third. He was thrown out to Stanley Hack back in the first, so he's actually 0 for 1. The right-hand hitter swings on the first Baroy offering, fouls it back into the screen for strike 1. No balls, 1 strike. Baroy taking his time about throwing this next one down to Skeeter Webb. Now here it comes. Webb swings on a high curve and doesn't get it. That's strike 2. Baroy's got a pretty good fast curve that he works in there high. He said before the game he was going to depend on that a lot. Comes down with his next pitch, and there it is in there again, but this one's laced out into center field solidly for a base hit for Skeeter Webb. Webb picked out that high curve and hit it straight away into center field. That's the second hit here in this fifth inning, and that is hit number 4 off Baroy. Hit number 6 in the game, as Newhouser has given up a pair of hits to the Chicago Cubs. Now with 2 away, Skeeter Webb, the potential tie-breaking run, is on at first base. And Eddie Mayo, who hasn't been stopped this afternoon in 2 at-bats, he's hit 2 singles, is digging in. Baroy delivers to the plate. Mayo takes a high curve on the outside for ball 1. Baroy is very intent in watching this runner at first base. This guy Webb can move. He's just likely to be sent down by Steve O'Neill. Now Baroy sets. Throws over to first base, however, instead of delivering to the plate. And Webb steps in ahead of it easily. Cavaretta's return to the man almost got away from Baroy, too. Now the count is 1 ball, no strikes on Mayo. Baroy throws, and Mayo takes. That's a high hook. for ball 2. Missed just outside to a left-hand hitter. Mayo, when he started to bat this afternoon, had an overly closed stance. Right foot forward to the plate, but he's changed that stance now. He's opened it, and the right foot is dragged down toward first, and he almost faces the pitcher. He's gotten himself a couple of base hits that way. Alberoy serves the next pitch up, and there's a ball hit right down to Phil Cavaretta at first. Phil grabs it, steps on first, and that's all for Detroit and Mayo here in the 5th inning. So in the 5th inning, for Detroit, no runs, 2 hits, 1 man left, and there were no errors. At the end of 4.5 innings of play, the score stands: the Tigers 1 and the Cubs 1. Red Barrett, who switched from the Braves to the Cardinals during the season, is the only pitcher in the majors to beat all 8 clubs in his league this year. Now, that's quite a distinction. But take a look at the all-time record hung up by the Gillette Tech Razor. It's met all comers and won worldwide fame as the easiest shaving razor ever produced. Now, here's news that will be music to your ears. The Gillette Tech is coming back on dealers' counters all over the country. Your dealer may have the Gillette Tech in stock right now with all-metal gold-plated head plus 5 super keen Gillette blue blades at the pre-war price of 49 cents. What shaves you get, how quick, how easy, how smooth and refreshing. Ask your dealer for your Gillette Tech razor. And now for the latter portion of this number 5 game of the World Series is a guy that I'm very happy to be associated with on this broadcast. As a matter of fact, I'm very happy to be associated with him, period. I'm talking about Bill Slater, as if you didn't know it. Bill, it's all yours.
Thank you a lot, Al. Andy Papko is going to be the first hitter for the Cubs here in the last half of the 5th inning. He steps in there batting right-handed. Andy struck out his first time up. On Wednesday in Detroit against Newhouser, he had better luck. He was walked and doubled and scored 2 runs off Hal. Here's the pitch to him. He swings on it, beats it foul into the ground behind the plate. 1 strike on Papko. Papko, as of course you know from the roar of the throng, is the outfielding star of the afternoon. He has made 2 tremendous catches out there in the outer gardens after long runs. He's a nice kid in his 20s, comes from up in Wisconsin. Newhouser works. Papko attempts to bunt, beats it foul again. That'll be 2 strikes on Andy. Andy sort of fiddle-doodling around the plate there instead of swinging straight away so far. Newhouser rubs up a new ball. Newhouser's settled down, looking very, very sharp. He's given up only 2 hits to the Cubs as we go into the last half of the 5th inning. Score is 1-1, as you all know. Now Newhouser's ready. Here it comes. Papko takes it. It's ball strike 3. Papko is out of there, and that's the 5th strikeout for Hal Newhouser. 1 away for Chicago in the last half of the 5th. Now here is William Beck Nicholson. Bad Bill, they call him in baseball. Nicholson grounded out to Rudy York. His first appearance against Newhouser this afternoon. Against Newhouser Wednesday in Detroit, he hit a triple in 2 times up. Swings on this one. There's a ground ball down to third base. Outlaw has it. The throw to first is in time. Nicholson is out. Third to first. 2 out for Chicago in the last of the 5th. The batter now is that sturdy, fiery gentleman from South Carolina, Mickey Livingston, the catcher. His parents named him Thompson Livingston, probably a family name, but in baseball, he's just plain Mickey. That's right-handed. He was retired by Newhouser his first time up. Newhouser hit him pretty hard with the ball on the first baseline. The pitch to Livingston is high for ball 1. 1-0 on the Cub catcher. 2 out, nobody on. Livingston's got a wife and 3 kids, and one of his little boys is here with him. Here it is. High again. Ball 2. 2-0 the count on Livingston. He's a right-handed batter. The outfield is straight away on him. Livingston is 4 for 12 in the series so far. He's driven in 2 runs. Now Newhouser in that big wind-up. Pitches. Livingston hits it right back past the mound to deep shortstop. It's gathered up by Webb. The throw in time. Livingston is out. Short to first. That's all for Chicago in the last half of the 5th inning. Now at the end of 5 full innings of play, Chicago has 1 run on 2 hits. Detroit has 1 run. They have 4 hits off Barrowe. So it's a 1-1 ball game. The series is tied at 2 games apiece, and you couldn't ask for anything any tighter than that. Now we're getting ready for the sixth inning, and the first batter up for the homestanding Detroit Tigers, visiting in here as the Chicago Cubs take the field, is going to be Doc Kramer. And Kramer is the fellow who was absolutely robbed by Andy Pafko back in the third inning the last time Kramer was up there. Kramer hasn't had too much luck hitting against Beroy in this series. In the first ball game, Wednesday over in Detroit, Beroy set him down 0 for 3, and Kramer's been up twice today, and he hasn't hit Beroy yet. So Roger Kramer, who was called Doc by the boys, they used to, when he played for Philadelphia, call him Flit, because he could catch so many flies, was the reason for it. Kramer is about ready to step in there now. He's of Holland Dutch extraction. In the wintertime, there's nothing he likes much better than to go fox hunting. Matter of fact, he's got 14 foxhounds at his home down at Manahawkin in New Jersey. But he doesn't get on a horse and gallop after the foxhounds. He turns the hounds loose, and they race around the hills, and he goes in an automobile and follows the baying of the hounds, and sometimes they come up with a fox that's up a tree. That's a type of fox hunting that's done in a lot of places of the country, and it's a lot of fun. So the guy who likes that is about ready to step in there now. Doc Kramer, first batter up in the sixth inning of a 1-1 ball game. Fordham Hank Beroy is ready to pitch to him. Winds up in that smooth fashion, cuts it loose. Kramer swings on it, slaps it out there. It's falling in for a hit. Fielded by Pafko on the third bounce. In center field, it gets away from Pafko. It's rolling to the wall. Kramer has moved into second, and he's going to hold up there, and I think that will be an error on Pafko. It's a single for Kramer, his first hit off Beroy, and his sixth hit of the series, and it is the first error of the series for Andy Pafko. He was attempting to field it on about the fifth bounce out there, and it rolled between his legs, and Harry Lowry had to go get it. So Kramer is in potential scoring position due to that error on Pafko and to Kramer's own single to center. And who advances to the plate now except the big man, Captain Hank Greenberg. Greenberg was robbed by Pafko back in the third inning his last time up. He's a right-handed batter, is Big Hank. Beroy pitches him low and inside for ball one. Beroy, despite the fact he has quite a record over Detroit, hasn't pitched very often to Greenberg because Greenberg left for the wars before Beroy got going. Now here's the pitch. Swung on, it's hit down the left field line, and it falls fair. It's off in the left field corner there. Kramer is rounded third. He's coming in to score. Greenberg falls down midway between first and second, but gets up and trots into second, and he looked as if he might have been hurt a little bit. But it's a solid double for Hank Greenberg, who fell down, and manager Steve O'Neill is running out from his third base coaching box now to see what's happened to his star. And the trainer, Ray Forsythe, charges out from the dugout. And they want to see very, very carefully whether or not Hank Greenberg, who doubled down the left field line, bashed it off into the corner there to drive in Kramer from second with the tie-breaking run. They want to see whether Greenberg is hurt or not. He's walking around there. Looks as if he might have hurt his knee. He's been having a little trouble with his underpinnings since he came back from the Army Air Forces. Looks like his left knee. He fell flush down on his face about midway between first and second. That, incidentally, is the second one of the Tigers who's fallen down there. Greenberg's going to stay in, though. He's okay. The Tigers are ahead now, 2-1. And at the top of the sixth inning here, they have teed off on Hank Beroy. Kramer single, Greenberg double. Derringer and Bob Chipman are warming up for the Cubs. And there's the old Arkansas hummingbird out there, Lon Warnicki. That's a great sight. Greenberg now at second. Play is to be resumed. One run is in, nobody out in the top of the sixth inning. The Tigers ahead 2-1. The batter now is Roy Cullenbine. Batting left-handed, the switch hitter. Was called out on strikes in the first inning. Popped up to the second baseman in the fourth. Here it comes. He jumps away from it. It's low and inside for ball one. Cullenbine is 1 for 11 so far in this series. Hy Vandenberg has joined the host of Cub pitchers warming up now. They've got Chipman, Derringer, Warnicki, and Vandenberg down there, and Charlie Grimm can take his choice if he needs to. Count on Cullenbine is 1 ball. Now the count is ball 2 because that one was flipped into the dirt by Beroy, who looks a little up-dumped right now, and it was very nicely stopped by Mickey Livingston. 2-0, the count on Cullenbine. 2-1 the score, Detroit in front. They've gone ahead here in the top of the sixth. Now Beroy is taking a lot of time getting ready for this next delivery to Roy Cullenbine. Big burly fellow standing up there with a long grip on the bat. Roy stretches, looks at Greenberg leading off second, delivers to the plate. Cullenbine swings on it. There's a foul going over into the stands opposite third base. Strike one on Cullenbine. 2 balls, 1 strike. This Cullenbine is of Irish descent. His parents were a theatrical couple, so he's probably moved around a lot. Now Baroy pitches him. Cullenbine swings on it. There's a line drive foul down the right field line. 2 balls, 2 strikes. That one went zinging into the crowd down there with a lot of stuff on it. Greenberg looks able to negotiate himself all right. That fall he suffered between first and second there on that double of his out to sharp left field didn't hurt him any. The big former captain of the Air Forces is up and ready to roll. Here comes the 2-2 pitch now to Cullenbine. Slow into the dirt. Now it's ball 3. 3 balls, 2 strikes. And the string, she runs out. This is the big one coming up. Nobody out yet. Rudy York on deck. Baroy studying and working carefully on each pitch. Is ready. Here it is. Cullenbine swings on it, hits on the ground down there. Cavaretta makes a beautiful stop on it, but he can't get a throw. Over to Baroy, who was covering it first. That was a Cavaretta dive across the dirt out there. He stopped the ball, kept it from going into right field, and that made Greenberg hold up at third. But he was unable to make a play on Cullenbine, and it'll undoubtedly go as a hit. It's a hit, of course. That's 3 hits in a row now off Baroy here at the top of the 6th inning. And thanks to Cavaretta, there's only 1 run in. Greenberg held up at third as Cavaretta dived across the dirt out there and stopped that ball from going into right field. He tried to make a flip throw to Baroy, who quickly had gone over to cover at first, but he couldn't get control of the ball and make the throw. The ball rolled away for just a couple of feet. Now here's Rudy York up, the slugger type. 1 run in, runners at first and third, and nobody out. Baroy has got the fat in the fire. Pitches to York, and it's low and just above the knees on the inside corner. Called strike 1. York is squawking a bit on that one, talking to Bill Summers about it, but the decision, of course, as usual, stands. Big Rudy, ready to lay into it if he can. Baroy wanting to slip it past him, and York hits it. It's a clean single on the ground into center field. Greenberg comes in to score easily, and Cullenbine holds at second as the ball is fielded to third. 4 hits in a row off Baroy. 2 more runs in for Detroit, and they lead 3-1. Now here comes Charlie Grimm walking out of the Cub dugout, and his head is hanging a little low. And I think he'll have to lift his ace, Hank Baroy. He's patting Hank on the back now, but no definite signal has been given. Now he gives the signal to the bullpen, and Baroy is coming out. Vandenberg, I believe, is coming in. And that's all for Hank Baroy. Baroy has given up 4 hits in this inning. He was reached for 4 prior to this inning. So he has given up 8 hits in the 5 innings plus that he has pitched. And that will be all for Hank. He could not duplicate the magnificent pitching feat that won him a shutout victory over the Tigers on Wednesday up in Detroit. And now we'll have Big High Vandenberg. Vandenberg pitched in here in that ball game yesterday. He pitched 2 innings, didn't give up a hit to these Detroit Tigers. You'll probably have a considerable parade of Cub pitchers now. And here's a hand for Baroy as he walks off the field. This High Vandenberg is no small fellow. He's a big guy, stands 6'3 and a half, weighs around 215 pounds. He comes from the hometown of General Eisenhower. He was born in Abilene, Kansas. He lives in Minneapolis now. And Vandenberg will be remembered back east as having pitched, of course, with the New York Giants. During the season, Vandenberg won himself 7 games while losing 3. And we told you of his World Series performance just a couple of moments ago when he pitched 2 hitless innings against the Tigers yesterday. He has a pretty tough situation in front of him because he comes in here in the 6th inning in which 2 Tiger runs have already crossed. Cullenbine is at second, York is at first. Jimmy Outlaw will be the first batter to face Vandenberg. Outlaw is down there now, swinging his bat around, little right-handed hitter. This will be Outlaw's third time up this afternoon. He lined out to Nicholson in right field his first appearance in the second inning, and he struck out in the fourth inning. Outlaw has 3 hits out of 17 times up so far in the series. Comes from Jackson, Alabama. Right-handed batter, and he's ready to go. And big high Vandenberg pitches to the little fella. It's swung on and missed. They were playing him for the sacrifice. Cavaretta was charging in viciously from first. Outlaw trying to cross him up, swung on it, but he missed it. This guy Outlaw started his organized baseball career playing for Beckley in West Virginia. 1 strike on him. Vandenberg pitches. He bunts this one. It's back toward the mound. Vandenberg feels that the play has to be at first where Cavaretta is covering, and the sacrifice works. Outlaw is out 1-3. Cullenbine, of course, moved to third on the play, and York to second. Now they have 2 runners potentially in scoring position with 1 away, and the batter is Paul Richards. Richards didn't get a hit in the series up until yesterday, but up at this point he's 2 for 13, and he drove in one of the runs yesterday, and with first open and Newhouse's scheduled to come up, they're going to put Richards on. He'll be intentionally passed. That would be the strategy indicated. There's 1 man out here. Now they'll load up the bases so as to set up an out at every corner. There's pitch out number 3 to Richards. The batter coming up now is Newhouser. Newhouser, despite the fact that he is ordinarily in season play a pretty good hitter, has not distinguished himself at the plate in the series so far. He has struck out once and twice hit into double plays. And while the averages will be running against the Cubs this time, they're going to try to make him hit into his 3rd double play of the series. And the young 24-year-older from Detroit is stepping up there right now. He bats left-handed as he pitches. Looks out there and he finds Richards at first, York at second, and Cullenbine at third. Only 1 out. He wants a hit so bad he can probably taste it. Now big high Vandenberg pumps. Here's the pitch. Inside, ball 1. Newhouser, pretty smart cookie, is up there now, and he seems much less nervous than he did on Wednesday, much less nervous than he did at the start of this ball game. He has a 3-0 lead. Vandenberg punches. Pitch is low and inside again for ball 2, and the bases are loaded, and now Mickey Livingston calls time, and he goes trotting out to the mound. And this mound is just a round spot of dirt in the middle of the infield there. There is no path from the mound to home plate, as you see in a great many big league ballparks. Now Livingston has said whatever he was going to say to Vandenberg, and he's in his place behind the plate. The count on Newhouser is 2-0, and the bases are loaded. Here comes the pitch to Hal. It's low and outside, and that is ball 3. Cullenbine menacing from third. York parked at second and Richards at first. 3-0, the count on the batter, Hal Newhouser, the Detroit pitcher. And Vandenberg got the fat in the fire. Pitch is low and forces in a run. The run, of course, is charged to Barroy, who put Cullenbine on. Cullenbine came trotting across the plate. He didn't come trotting in the usual lackadaisical fashion. He ran across that plate. Richards, of course, was shoved down to second, and that moves Big Rudy York down to third. And the score now is 4-1 in favor of Detroit over Chicago, in a tremendous uprising here in the top of the 6th inning. The bases are still loaded. There's still only 1 out, and here is Skeeter Webb up. He's 1 for 2 so far in this ball game. Takes a fast call strike. Just above the knees over the outside corner, and he squawks about it. I don't mean he's putting on any rabbit beef, but he's just saying a few well-chosen words to Bill Summers, who is giving him a few well-frozen looks. Here it comes. Skeeter Webb starts for it, checks his swing just in time, and now Livingston, the catcher, claims that he swung at it. The umpire never succeeds in pleasing anybody. That's ball 1 and strike 1 on Skeeter Webb. Webb's no unfamiliar figure here in Chicago. He played 5 years with the White Sox. Right-handed batter. Vandenberg pitches him, swung on and missed for strike 2. 1 ball, 2 strikes now on Webb. The base is chock full of Tigers. And now time is called while Charlie Grimm goes walking out to the mound. And he calls Murillo in, he calls Don Johnson in, he calls Livingston to the mound. And they all join Vandenberg there. And there's a high-powered strategy meeting at the mound now with Jolly Charlie directing his Cubs. Down in the bullpen, Derringer and Chipman are still limbering up their pitching arms. So whatever Grimm had to say has been said, and he comes trotting back in that loose jointed fashion of his to the Cub dugout. This is indeed a tough spot. 3 runs have already scored here in the top of the 6th inning, with the Tigers breaking loose. The bases are loaded. Still, there is only 1 out. Hy Vandenberg has relieved Hank Baroy, and he hasn't been too successful up to this point. Outlaw sacrificed on him. Richards was intentionally passed, and then he let Newhouser get away, forcing in a run. Now time is back in. Webb is about ready to go, hitches up his britches, steps in there, the right-handed batter. 1 ball, 2 strikes on him. Big Hy Vandenberg, towering giant from Kansas. Kicks the dirt around on the mound. Outfield plays Webb straight away, not too deep. Infield is back. Pitch to him is swung on. There's a ground ball down to the second baseman. The play at second, 1 out. The play back to first is not in time, and another run scores. So Webb is marked up as hitting into a force out. He drives in the run nonetheless, bringing in Rudy York from third for the 4th run of this inning for Detroit. Moves Richards on down to third, and Newhouser is out at second from the second baseman to the shortstop. Don Johnson picked the ball up and threw it. Murillo fielded it on the pivot at second. His throw on to Cavaretta at first was not in time to get Webb, who's pretty fast on his feet, and I think that's going to be all for Big Hy Vandenberg. That last run that scored, Yorks, was charged, of course, to Baroy, who put him on. Now 4 runs across this inning, and the score is 5-1. And I believe it's Bob Chipman who's coming in. Yep. That will be all for Hy Vandenberg. He came in here and faced 4 men and was unable to shut off the flow of Detroit runs that have been pouring across that plate. So this will be Bob Chipman coming in here. And this will be Bobby's first appearance in a World Series ball game. He's a left-hander, as we told you. He stands about 6'2 and a half, weighs around 180 pounds, and he comes from the great borough of Brooklyn in New York. He lives at East Northport out on the island now. Chipman's a 26-year-older. Brooklyn bought him from Atlanta, and then he came on out here to Chicago. So Chipman is the 3rd pitcher to appear on the mound here in this 6th inning. And at this particular moment, it's a rather sorry situation for Charlie Grimm and the Cubs. But, of course, this ball game, like any game in this great American pastime, is not over. Chipman, during the regular season, won 4 games and lost 5. All right, he's completed his warm-up pitches. He's ready to go. And the first batter he'll face will be Eddie Mayo. And Mayo will be the 9th Tiger to come up this inning. Eddie bats left-handed, as you know, and he is 2 for 3 so far. He was poison to Baroy. Collected 4 hits out of 7 times up off Baroy. Now Mayo is ready, and Chipman pitches him outside, a curveball. Broke away, low and outside. Richards is at third. Down at first to Skeeter Webb. 2 out. Here's the pitch to Mayo. It's low into the dirt. Ball 2. It's a rather silent and at this moment subdued and disappointed Chicago crowd as the tide of fortune turns very strongly in behalf of the Tigers here in the top of the 6th. Now here's the pitch to Mayo. He lets it go. It's low for ball 3. Chipman has pitched 3 of them and hasn't been able to put one over yet. Now the Brooklyn-born lefty gets ready. Stretches. Delivers to the plate. Mayo takes. It's a fast ball strike. The automatic number flips in and over. 3 balls, 1 strike. Big blonde Paul Erickson is working in the bullpen for the Cubs now. Here's the stretch. The pitch to Mayo is outside for ball 4, and Mayo is walked. That loads up the bases again. Webb scooting down to second. Mayo at first. And now here's Doc Kramer coming up for the 2nd time this inning. He singled and got to second on Papco's error, and that started all of the activity for the Tigers. He's a left-handed batter, he is. Swings on the first pitch. There it goes down to the second baseman. The play is at first, and Kramer is out, and the side is retired. Kramer out, second to first. So in the top of the sixth inning for Detroit, they get themselves 4 runs on 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. There were 3 base runners left on. There was 1 Chicago error. And the score at the end of 5.5 innings of play is Detroit 5, Chicago 1. To me, the fall-away slide is one of the most exciting plays in all baseball. There's action, believe me, when that steel sign is on. Yes, sir. And that's what you get when you use Gillette Lather Shaving Cream. Water is what softens wiry whiskers for easy shaving. But whiskers are oily and therefore moisture-resisting. Now, Gillette Lather Shaving Cream removes the oil almost instantly and blankets plenty of water against your bristles. That way, you give wiry whiskers the old one, too. You knock the starch out of them in a hurry, and you get slick-looking, refreshing shaves. See if I'm not right about this. Ask for Gillette Lather Shaving Cream and enjoy extra shaving ease. We're going to pause 10 seconds here now for station identification. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.
Well, with the score 5-1 against them, the Cubs come up to bat here in the last half of the sixth inning. And, of course, they're not out of this ball game yet. Lefty Hal Newhouser, the young left-handed star from Detroit, is, of course, anxious to preserve this substantial lead that he enjoys as we go into the last half of the sixth inning. And this guy Newhouser is worth looking at as an athlete. He was a star all through his days in Wilbur Wright High School in Detroit. He's a big 195-pounder, and he stands 6'2". He's 24 years of age. Pitches now to Len Murillo, who swings and misses. This is Murillo's second time up in the series. He's the Cubs shortstop of the afternoon, and he struck out his first time up. Newhouser works. Murillo swings on this one. There's a ground ball down to deep shortstop. Skeeter Webb has it. The throw over to first is in time to get Len Murillo. Murillo is out short to first. That Murillo is an interesting kid. He went to Villanova, and at 27 years of age, he's prematurely gray. Or graying a little. Now the batter is going to be a pinch hitter, I believe. Eddie Sauer is coming up. He's coming up to bat for Chipman, which means we'll have another pitcher, and I think it'll probably be Erickson. Sauer is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where he lives. He's a right-handed batter, and he stands in there wearing a big number 45 on his back. He's a 25 year older, is Mr. Eddie Sauer. Swings on the first one. There's a high foul going into the stands behind third. Strike one on Sauer. Sauer. His wife is here at the series, too. Oh, I keep track of the wives who are here. Now, on the mound, Newhouser is rubbing up a new ball. His wife is here also, as a matter of fact. Let's get out of the wife department. Sauer is standing there, crowding the plate just a trifle. 1 strike on him. Newhouser works. Now there are 2 strikes on him. That was a fast one. Two strikes on Eddie Sauer, an outfielder who's up as a pinch hitter. Swings, tips it, and it's held by Richards for a strikeout. That is strikeout number 6 for Mr. Hal Newhouser. That's 2 out for Chicago in the last half of the sixth inning. So if you think Newhouser's moving up close to a record for strikeouts in a World Series ball game, we can relax a bit. The record is 13. It's held by Howard Emke of the A's. That's surprise starter back in 29 for Connie Mack. Now the batter standing in there is Stanley Hack, and the first pitch to him is a fast ball strike. As Newhouser cuts everything loose he's got now and bears down. Hack has 1 hit out of 1 official times up. He was walked once. Swings, misses. Strike 2 on Stan Hack. Hack looks a little disgusted with himself and backs out of the batter's box and beats the bat on the ground. 2 strikes on him. Steps in there vowing that this youngster is not going to fool him again. Pitch is swung on, fouled off. Lands on the screen here and rolls on down. There's little Jimmy Shalikas, the Cub bat boy, made a nice catch on the ball as it rolled off the screen. Charlie Grimm, coaching at third, still with those loose pantomime antics of his, calling on Hack to get a hit. 2 strikes on Hack. That pitch is low and outside for ball 1. 1-2. This is Hack's 4th World Series. He hit .471 in the 38 series against the Yanks, hit .227 back in 35 against the Tigers, but in 32 he was just in as a pinch runner. Lets it go. Does Hack outside for ball 2. You can undoubtedly hear in the crowd, Mike, the call on the balls and strikes by Billy Summers. He's very vocal. The 2-2 pitch to Hack is outside for ball 3. Either Derringer or Erickson are going to come in here to pitch for Chicago when inning number 7 gets underway. They're both warming up down there. Now Newhouser's having a little trouble here with Stan Hack. He had 2 strikes on him. Then he tried for the outside corner. Some fancy stuff on the next 3, and it's 3-2 now. Now Hack swings on this one. There's a high bounder that Jimmy Outlaw stops nicely, throws across to first to York, and Hack is out. Outlaw was very fast on that. Had to go sharply to his left at full speed. Took it, whipped it all over there in the same motion. And in the 6th inning for Chicago, there are no runs, no hits, no errors, and no base runners left on. And the score at the end of 6 full innings of play is 5 for Detroit and 1 for Chicago. And I think the next pitcher is going to be Derringer. Yep, it's big Paul Derringer, the big guy from down Kentucky way, striding in there. Derringer appeared in the ball game yesterday, you know. He pitched 1 2/3 innings and gave up 2 hits. So he's got a job cut out for him today. Because the Chicago cause now all rests on their turning back these Tigers as rapidly as they can and getting in here and making up some runs. See what they can do about that 4-run deficit at this particular point. Derringer, who's a great big guy, during the regular season won 16 and lost 11, and a veteran, a grand old veteran of this game, is completing his warm-up pitches. He's a huge man, as we told you yesterday, weighs 230 pounds, stands around 6'4". Kicks that left leg of his way up in the afternoon breeze as he cuts loose with his pitch coming out of his windup. And Derringer's got plenty to do because the first batter he's going to face is going to be big Hank Greenberg. Greenberg has had a double out of 3 times up today. Big Hank has been a power for these Tigers, as of course everybody knows in the series. Now Hank is flexing his right arm. Sort of got a kink in his right elbow. It's all right, though, and he steps in and is ready to go. And big Derringer kicks and pitches to him. It's down low for ball 1. Derringer is the 4th Chicago pitcher this afternoon. Broy knocked out in inning number 6. Then Vandenberg came in, and he didn't last, and Chipman came in. And Chipman was Derek for a pinch hitter, Eddie Sauer. Now Derringer works slowly, sidearms it outside. Ball 2. 2-0 the count on Hank Greenberg. First batter in inning number 7. Greenberg's parents came to this country from Romania. Went into the textile business, and Hank was headed for that until he started playing semi-pro baseball over in Brooklyn. Swings on one. There's a high fly back into short left field. Back goes Len Murillo, the shortstop, and he's running away, and he can't come up with it. He falls in for a hit, and Greenberg is heading for second, and he goes in standing up, and it's a double. Plays a high fly. Gets back there between Murillo, the shortstop, and Peanuts Lowry, the left fielder. Murillo signaled for it and tried to take it going away, and he couldn't get his hands on it, and it fell right in front of him as he had his back to the plate and was running out into short left field. Looks as if Lowry might have gotten it, but that's all under the heading of speculation. So it's a double for Greenberg, and that's his second double to left field. One a slashing drive, and this one a high towering fly. Now the batter up is Cullenbine. Left-handed batter. Here's the pitch to Roy. He bunts it back toward the mound. Derringer has it. The play is going to be at third, and Greenberg is safe. That was a bunt popped up in front of the plate. Derringer, playing it the gutsy way, went up, picked it up, threw it down to Hack at third, but Greenberg, long and lanky, slid in ahead of the throw, and he's on. And, of course, Cullenbine is on at first on a fielder's choice. So the very courageous play on the part of Derringer didn't work out, and now the situation is tougher than it was. With Greenberg at third and Cullenbine at first, and the batter up there is Rudy York. Pitch to him is low and inside for ball 1. He's hit 239 home runs in his lifetime, and that's a lot of home run hitting. Pitch to him is swung on. There's a high fly back to second base. Back on the grass goes Don Johnson in short center field, and it's Papko who comes in and takes it. And here's the throw to the plate, and Greenberg, who started to the plate, turns around and goes back to third. Papko can throw. That's one out. And it looked for a moment as if they were going to have a little bit of a rondelay in short center field over that one. Don Johnson, the second baseman, was back, and Papco was coming in. And at the last minute, Johnson fell away, and Papco took it, rifled his throw toward the plate. And Greenberg, with proper respect for Papco's arm, which is good, went halfway down, and then when he saw the throw coming, he went back to third. So that's one out, and Greenberg remains at third, and Cullenbine at first, of course. And the batter now is little Jimmy Outlaw. Paul Erickson is warming up for the Cubs. Outlaw, right-handed hitter, is ready. Here's the pitch to him outside, ball one. Outlaw is officially 0 for 2 this afternoon, sacrificed once. He started his Major League Baseball in Cincinnati. Still, Big Greenberg leans down off third. Cullenbine takes his lead off first now. Here's the pitch. Cullenbine is breaking. Outlaw swings on the ball, hits it into center field. There's a beautiful one-handed catch by Papco. Here comes the throw to the plate, but Greenberg goes in as the throw is cut off by the pitcher in the center of the diamond. So Outlaw drives in a run with the fly ball to center field. Was beautifully caught out there by Papco. That was a pretty hard spike ball to the left of Papco. Had to do quite a run to get it. He got it out there, but not in time to throw into the plate to head off Greenberg, who scored standing up with run number 6 for Detroit. Cullenbine, who was, as I told you, breaking on the play, had gotten himself all the way down to second. He had to do a powerful hurry to get back to first, but he did. So there are 2 out now, 1 run in. Cullenbine at first, and the batter up is Paul Richards, the catcher. Outfield straight away on Richards, respectfully deep. Swings on that one. There's a ground ball down to Hack at third. Hack has it. The throw is across the diamond to Cavaretta. Richards, who had carried his bat halfway down to first, is out. So on the top of the 7th inning, 1 run for Detroit on 1 hit, a base runner left on, and there were no Chicago errors. The score at the end of the first half of the 7th is Detroit 6, Chicago 1. Well, with us here in the booth is Augie Galland, popular clutch hitter for Dem Bums, beloved in Brooklyn. He used to roam this famous Chicago pasture here in a Cub uniform, and he's known around the circuit as a great team player. Augie, we say that teamwork counts in shaving just as it does in baseball. We mean that because your Gillette razor and Gillette Blue Blade match up and work together perfectly. They give you shaves worth writing home about. Do you go along with that, Augie?
I sure do, Bill. They're the smoothest shaving combination I ever use. Most of the ball players I know feel the same way about it.
Well, thanks. That's putting it very straight, Augie Galland, and I appreciate you coming up to the booth. Advantage in using misfit blades that nick and scrape your face? Get hep to Gillette Blue Blades and enjoy real shaving comfort. Look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. And now the crowd has stood up, of course, the loyal Cub fans in the home half of the 7th inning. And here is Don Johnson stepping up there to see what can be done about this spell that Detroit slugging and Newhouser pitching has woven over the Cubs this afternoon. Johnson is a right-handed batter, of course. This is his 3rd time up, and he hasn't hit Newhouser yet. Pitch to Johnson is high for ball 1. Johnson, over in Detroit on Wednesday, got 2 hits off of Newhouser, and 2 times up. One of them was a double. But Newhouser's been turning him back today. 1-0 the count on Johnson. Here it comes. Now it's 1-1. That was a called strike above the knees over the outside corner. There's that rhythmic clapping of the Chicago fans in the background. Johnson takes, it's high. Ball 2. 2-1. Peanuts Lowry's on deck. Now Newhouser is fiddling around on the mound a little bit. The tall, rangy lefty is ready. Here's the pitch. It's swung on, fouled off, back against the screen. 2 balls, 2 strikes. The count on Don Johnson. This guy, Don Johnson, first played professional baseball under his father, the famous Ernie Johnson, Yankee and White Sox infielder. That was out in Seattle when Ernie, Don's father, was the manager out there. So Don's learned baseball at his father's knee. Swings on that one, strikes out. Don't think his father would like that. It was a low-breaking curve, a beauty, and it fooled Johnson, who struck out for the 2nd time against Newhouser. That is strikeout number 7 for lefty Hal. And the batter facing him now is Peanuts Lowry. Lowry hasn't had much luck with Newhouser pitching today. First inning, he hit into a double play. In the 4th inning, he grounded out to the shortstop. There's a called strike coming in on Peanuts. Newhouser working quickly. Throws a change of pace curveball that curves in just a little too much. Ball 1. Now Newhouser works once more. Lowry swings, misses, and almost falls down with the force of his futile attempt. He was swinging for that one. That's characteristic of Peanuts. He's a money player. And incidentally, a very swell little guy. Newhouser pitches him. It's high up toward the peak of his cap. Jerked his head back out of the way for ball 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Now Lowry looks at that one, swings on it. There's a blooper back to shortstop. Back goes Skeeter Webb. In comes Kramer. Neither can come up to it. It falls in for a hit. A looping fly ball falls in between Skeeter Webb going back from shortstop and Kramer driving in from center field, and it's a hit for Lowry. And he's on. And here comes Cavaretta. Cavaretta has 5 hits out of 16 times up in the series, but yesterday he went hitless and struck out twice. So far today he's been up twice, hasn't hit, struck out once. So Phil is about due. He's a left-handed hitter, and he's the power hitter of the National League. Pitch to him is high. A determined fellow is Phil Cavaretta. He can hit when the chips are down. They're down now. Pitches outside. Quite a wide breaking curve away from Cavaretta for ball 2, and Chicago hopes soar. Despite the fact that Cavaretta is a very prolific hitter and hits left-handed, the outfield plays him practically straight away. It's a pretty good-sized hole in the infield between the second baseman Mayo and Rudy York, too. That pitch is low and outside to Phil for ball 3. Now George Castor is warming up a bit for the Tigers. There's a call strike on Cavaretta. Newhouser whipped in the automatic number. Lowry leads off first. Pitch to Cavaretta's low into the dirt for ball 4, and he's put on. Men at first and second now. That's just the second walk given up by Newhouser. He walked the first batter of the ball game, Stanley Hack. Hadn't walked anybody up until now in the last half of the 7th. He walked Cavaretta to put Phil Cavaretta at first and Peanuts Lowry at second. And that brings up Andy Pafko. Now let's see what Newhouser can do with Pafko now. He struck him out both times that Andy's been up there previously in this ball game. Pafko, a right-handed batter. Swings on one, hits it on the ground. Newhouser picks it up. The throw to second is in time for 1 out, and there's no chance for a throw on to first. Mayo fielding the ball at second. So Pafko hits into a force out. He himself is on at first base, but Cavaretta is erased at second base. Pitcher to the second baseman. That's 2 out as Lowry crossed down to third on the play. Now the batter is Bad Bill Nicholson, who twice has led the National League in home runs and twice has led the National League in runs batted in his 7 years playing for the Cubs. Bill Summers calls timeout briefly while the ball that was being thrown by George Castor down there warming up for the Tigers rolled out on the playing field. So here's the situation in the last of the 7th. Pafko at first, Lowry at third, 2 out, and Nicholson up. Pitches low into the dirt and outside to Bill. Richards had to dive swiftly down to his knees to hold it up. Newhouser ready, pitches, low and outside again for ball 2. Nicholson's a dangerous fella. He was cooled off pretty well yesterday by Dizzy Trout, went 0 for 4 and struck out twice. So far today, hasn't been able to hit a ball out of the infield, but he's always dangerous. Swings on that one, hits it down to third base. Outlaw has it. The play is going to be at second, and it is not in time, and the run scored. Simply a matter of a fielder's choice on a ball hit by Bill Nicholson on the ground down to Jimmy Outlaw at third. Outlaw was trying for the force out on Pafko at second. Mayo was a little slow getting there, and Pafko slid in on his stomach, reached out his hand and touched the bag just before the foot of Mayo stepped on the bag, and so Pafko was safe there. And, of course, the runner from third, Lowry, crossed, and that is run number 2 for Chicago, and it's a 6-2 ball game. Nicholson is at first, of course. The batter now is Mickey Livingston. So Chicago scores in the home half of the seventh, and some of the margin that separates them from the Tigers is made up. And their runners at first and second with 2 out. The count on Livingston is a ball. He swings on that one. There's a long fly ball down the right field line. I don't know. It falls fair. It falls fair. In comes Pasco to score. In comes Nicholson to score. And the ball bounces into the stands out there for an automatic double. I was watching that ball very carefully because I'm practically sighting exactly down the right field line. And all the way, I couldn't tell whether it was going to fall fair or foul. And it fell fair by, I should say, not more than 6 inches. Bounced right up into the stands. Now, there's a bit of a discussion here, and it may be that Nicholson will be forced to go back to third. Yeah. Yep, he goes back to third. Automatic double. Allows Pafko to come in from second, of course. But Nicholson, who was on at first, is only allowed to take 2 bases on it, so he's put on at third. That's the reason I didn't tell you that 2 runs had scored officially. Livingston is credited with a double. He's parked on at second. Pafko's run counts. Nicholson is being dug out of the dugout and put back on third. That's where he is. And there is the situation, and Murillo is scheduled to hit. I think we may have a pinch hitter for him. I'm not absolutely certain. Looks like Dewey Williams. Yep, it's Dewey Williams, a catcher. And the Cubs have 5 catches in this series, which I think is the greatest number of catches any team has taken into the series. Now that play is being explained to the crowd over the loudspeaker. The score is 6-3 as the Cubs stage a rally off Hal Newhouser and the Tigers here in the last of the 7th. She's a terrific ball game. Now Murillo is being lifted for a pinch hitter, Dewey Williams.
Williams is a right-handed batter. He's a catcher. He hails from Durham, North Carolina. Swings and misses the first one. And this Williams coming up there as a pinch hitter is a rather interesting situation for Paul Richards, who managed Dewey Williams for 2 years when Dewey played for Atlanta. So Richards knows about what to call on Williams. He called for one low and inside that time, and he got it, and Williams took it. That makes the count on Williams, 1 ball, 1 strike. Nicholson is at third, remember. Livingston is at second. 2 are out. Here it comes. High, ball 2. Grimm is just about to explode in that coaching box down there at third. Jolly Charlie, the left-handed banjo strummer, one of the most genial and comical fellows in all baseball, also one of the smartest. All right, here's the pitch to Williams. He takes it high, and that is ball 3. Dewey Williams, third-string catcher for the Cubs, batting in the clutch here. There's a called strike. The ball came in just below his shoulder. And now, everything is as tight as it can be. The count on the batter is 3-2. And Williams backs out of there to ease the tension a bit. Here comes the pitch to him. It is called strike 3, and he's out of there. Newhouser came through, flipped in the fancy one on the 3-2 count, and that is all for Chicago in the last of the 7th. 2 runs for the Cubs on 2 hits. They had 2 base runners left on, and there were no errors by Detroit. So the score at the end of 7 full innings of play is Detroit 6, Chicago 3. I wouldn't go away if I were you all. Remember, too, fans, that Bill Corum of the New York Journal American Sports Staff will give the summary of today's thrilling game at the conclusion of our play-by-play report. So stay tuned in for Bill Corum. Now we go into inning number 8. Oh, boy. Newhouser is scheduled to be the first hitter for Detroit. Very likely will come out, and we have a new Chicago pitcher out there. While he's completing his warm-up pitches, no, it's Derringer staying in there. While he's completing his warm-up pitches, we're going to pause here 10 seconds for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.
There's a change in the infield of the Cubs as we move into the 8th inning. Billy Schuster comes in at shortstop in place of Len Murillo, who was lifted for the pinch hitter Dewey Williams. So Billy Schuster is there ready to go at shortstop. The batter is Newhouser, and Derringer pitches to him. And Newhouser bloops it up in the air, down the third base line, and it's taken by Stan Hack in foul territory. So one ball is pitched, Newhouser is out of there. Fouling out the third baseman of the Cubs. One away. That brings up the top of the Detroit batting order. Skeeter Webb coming up for the fifth batting around of the Detroit Tigers. Billy Schuster is from Buffalo, New York. He's playing at shortstop now for the Cubs. Derringer pitches a fast call strike to Skeeter Webb. Webb is 1 for 3 in this ball game, and he scored one of the 6 runs the Tigers have. Started for that one, pulled up just in time. Billy Schuster there at shortstop, Buffalo all the way, born and raised there. That's a strike on Webb. He started for it, checked his swing, and it came curving in and over. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 6-3 ball game, top of the 8th. Derringer works, it's fouled off by Webb, right into the crowd there. And there's the kind of a man. He had a girl with him, and the ball was coming right at her, and he jumped up and put himself between the ball and the girl. Like to see that sort of thing. Where men are men. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Webb. Swings on that one, loops it back to shortstop. Billy Schuster, scarcely moving, takes it. Just a blooper from Webb to Schuster. That's 2 out for Detroit in the top of the 8th. Now the batter is Eddie Mayo. Mayo was selected as the most valuable player by the correspondents of the Sporting News. He's been pretty valuable to Detroit here today. Has 2 hits out of 3 official times up. That's left-handed as Eddie of Clifton, New Jersey. He runs up on that one as if to bunt it, and then it isn't good, and he doesn't do anything, and it's a ball. Big room Paul Derringer takes plenty of time. The big wind-up, the pitch to Mayo is good. That was a 3/4 speed curveball that came over there with all the artistry that Derringer has mastered in these many years in the big leagues. 1-1. Mayo takes it a fast one just outside, and Derringer comes in, beefing a bit about that. Well, that's his privilege. Beef isn't rationed anymore. 2 balls, 1 strike on Mayo, left-handed batter. He swings on that one. It was a slow ball. Schuster fields it at shortstop. The throw over to Cavaretta in time, and that's all for Mayo. He's out short to first, and that's all for the Tigers in the top of the 8th inning. Nothing across for them. And the score, as we head for the last half of the 8th inning, is Detroit 6 and Chicago 3. You men listening to this broadcast have been growing whiskers ever since the game started. Now, to shave Tough Beard comfortably, you need a razor and blade combination that matches up. As Augie Gallant of the Dodgers put it, that is the Gillette Razor and Gillette Blue Blade. They're precision-made for each other, fit exactly, work together perfectly. You get good-looking shaves. Your face feels smooth and refreshed. Yes, with the Gillette Blue Blade and Gillette Razor, you avoid the smart and irritation caused by misfit blades and faulty shaving methods. So ask your dealer for Gillette Blue Blades. You should find them easier to obtain now. Look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. All right, it's the home half now of the 8th inning. The pitcher, Derringer, is scheduled to come up, but I think Frank Sicori is going to bat in his place. Charlie Grimm using these pinch hitters of his in an effort to make up the 3-run margin by which he trails. Sicori has been up twice before in the series as a pinch hitter and hasn't delivered. He's a right-handed batter, and he hails from Port Huron in the state of Michigan. He was born out in Mason City, Iowa. So Frank, batting right-handed, is ready to face the pitching of Newhouser, and Newhouser pitches him low. Ball 1. Looks like Paul Erickson will be the next Cub pitcher. He's warming up down there now. Newhouser works. It's swung on by Sicori and missed. Sicori spells his name Seccory. His wife is here, too. So is Newhouser's, who's about to pitch. 1-1 on Sicori. Swung and missed. That was one of Newhouser's swell curveballs. This is a fighting club, these Chicago Cubs. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Sicori now. Newhouser working. Sicori swings on it. There's a towering high infield fly. Back on the grass goes the second baseman, Mayo, and it's wind blown away from him and falls in for a hit, and Shikari is on. That was a high fly ball. That was a high fly ball back on the grass about 15 or 20 yards back of second base. Mayo was going back under it. You could tell it was twisting around up in the air there. The wind had some effect on it, and it fell in right behind Mayo and right in front of the in-charging Columbine for a single for Shikari, and he is on. Now the batter is Stanley Camfield Hack, and the outfield shifts around to the left on Hack. A tremendous hole between center and right field. There's a called strike on Stanley. And these Cubs are lashing and fighting their way back against the Tigers. And this is as thrilling a baseball game as you'll ever see. That one's high to Hack for ball one. Georgie Castor is warming up in the bullpen for the Detroit Tigers. He came into them, you know, late in the season from the St. Louis Browns. Newhouser pitches. Hack swings on it. There's a blooping foul down the left field line over into the crowd. Greenberg was going for it, and so was little Jimmy Outlaw, who's practically indefatigable. That's 1 ball, 2 strikes now on Stanley Hack. Shikari is on at first. Nobody out in the last half of the 8th inning. Chicago attacking. Charlie Grimm is about to blow up in that third base coaching box. He beats those hands together. He's a sturdy fellow from Missouri. Now Hack is ready. So is Newhouser. Here's the pitch. Hack swings on it. There's a bounding ball. Newhouser plays it back at second to the shortstop. The throw on to first is not in time. It was 1 out at second as Shikari slid in. But Newhouser, backing up and fielding that ball, whipped it back over his shoulder to Skeeter Webb covering at second, forcing Shikari. So Hack is on, hitting into a force out. That makes it 1 away for Chicago in the last half of the 8th. Here's Don Johnson. Right-handed hitting second baseman of the Cubs, who twice has been struck out by Hal Newhouser. Now Johnson steps in there. Hack leads off first. The pitch is very high to Don Johnson for ball 1. Oh, what a thriller. Perfectly beautiful afternoon. Sunshine, crowds, thrills, everything. Johnson bunts that one down toward third. Outlaw comes in, fields it. The throw to first is just in time. Close decision. That was a bunt down the third baseline. Outlaw had to come in very fast to handle it. It went right along the line. Picked the ball up, whipped it over to first. Of course, on the play, Hack moved down to second. I think they'll score that as a sacrifice. Let's make an official check on that. I'm quite sure it is. 2 out now. Hack on at second. Here's Peanuts Lowry up. Score is 6-3. We're in the last of the 8th, and Detroit leads Chicago. Lowry takes one, a curveball, just inside. Ball 1. Outfield pulls Peanuts to hit a little bit over toward left field. Peanuts is a right-handed batter. Pretty good-sized hole between center and right field. Pitch is swung on. There's a high pop-up down toward first. York. And out from the plate comes Richards. It was York who started in for it, and Richards ran all the way out to the mound, and just to the right of the mound, it was Richards who dived in and took it. So Lowry pops out to the catcher, standing out beside the pitcher's place of duty. And that is all for Chicago in the last of the 8th inning. No runs, 1 hit, a base runner left on, and there were no Detroit errors. So at the end of 8 innings, here's the way she wraps up. 6 runs for Detroit on 9 hits. They have committed no errors. 3 runs for Chicago. They've gotten only 5 hits off of Newhouser, and the Cubs have weighed in with 2 errors today. So that's how it wraps up at the end of 8 full innings of play in this thrilling 5th game of the 1945 World Series here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. You know, Bill Corum of the New York Journal-American Sports staff will summarize today's game and review the highlights just as soon as the last man is out. Stay tuned for Bill Corum. You know, we expressed a moment ago a little bit of a doubt as to whether that would be scored by the official score as a sacrifice on Johnson, and it was. So if you're keeping a box score, why, mark that down. Now it's big, tall, husky, blonde Paul Erickson who comes in to do the pitching in the top of the ninth inning for the Chicago Cubs. He is the fifth pitcher in here this afternoon. Burrow started, Vandenberg, Chipman, then Derringer, and now comes Paul Erickson. Erickson's been in here before. He's pitched 4 innings so far in the series, and in those 4 innings gave up 4 hits. First batter to face him is Doc Kramer. Kramer, 1 for 4 today, steps in there batting left-handed. It's a 6-3 ball game with Detroit in front, and we go into the payoff ninth inning. Erickson's pitch to Kramer is inside for ball 1. Now big Paul Erickson grabs hold of that ball, flips it in there. It's swung on, fouled off by Doc Kramer. Strike 1. We don't call Erickson big in vain. He stands 6'2" and weighs a little over 200 pounds. He hails from Zion, Illinois, makes his home now in Chicago. 1-1 on Doc Kramer. There's a slow ball that comes in and fools Kramer for call strike 2. Erickson taking plenty of time, has his signal now from Mickey Livingston, the catcher. Here comes the pitch. It's swung on, and there's a blooper foul just outside of third base. Manager Steve O'Neill, stout Steve, bends over and fields it. Steve O'Neill, the manager of the Tigers, looking a little bit happy right now. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Kramer, the first batter in the ninth. Erickson works. Kramer swings on it, fouls it off into the screen right in front of us here. We have a very excellent facility here for broadcasting the game. A fine booth just slightly to the left of home plate, midway between the first and second tier. Kramer starts for that one, lets it go, bounces up and hits him on the foot. Hit him right on the foot. It didn't bounce up, I beg your pardon. Hit him on the foot, the left foot, as it came in from the pitcher. So he's hit by the pitch, and he's put on. He was down very close to the ground. That's the second Tiger who's been hit by the pitch in the series. Burrow hit Greenberg by the pitch in the first ball game over in Detroit on Wednesday. So Kramer is on. The batter now is Hank Greenberg. Greenberg has 2 doubles out of 4 times up today. He's been poking that Greenberg long ball. Swings on that one, slaps it out into left field, and it falls in for a hit. It gets away from Lowry. It's bouncing off the wall there. Kramer is rounding third, but he's holding up at third as Greenberg, slowed down by that ankle of his, goes into second with a double, his third of the ball game. Boy, that was a solidly spanked blow. It was sharp into left field. He pulled it around there. Peanuts Lowry driving fast to his right, couldn't stop it. It bounded off the vine-covered wall out there, and Lowry had to chase it. Kramer stopping at third. Greenberg at second. That's the 10th hit for the Tigers. I wonder what the record on doubles in one World Series ball game is. 4 is the record, and this guy has 3. Cullenbine is stepping up there now to be the hitter. Swings, misses. It's a strike. So unless this game goes into extra innings, why, Greenberg will not have a chance to come up to the record of 4 doubles in one World Series game set by Frank Isbell of the White Sox. Here's Cullenbine lifting a long fly into deep center field. Back goes Pafko. He cannot get it. It falls against the wall. I think Pafko is hurt back there. Here comes Kramer in to score. And nope, he's not hurt. He's just trying to get a hold of the ball that bounced up into the stands. And it is an automatic double. So that will permit both of these runners to score. And the chap who hit it, Mr. Roy Cullenbine, with his second double of the series and his third hit of the series, is parked on at second. Kramer scores from third, and Greenberg, who had doubled, comes in from second. And the score now is 8-3. And the Tigers increase their lead here in the top of the ninth inning. That ball, I believe, was lost in the ivy up there, in the vines. That was hit on the fly about 395 feet into straightaway deep center field. So they're teeing off on Erickson. 2 doubles off of him. Now the batter is Rudy York. There's a fast call strike on Rudy. Lon Warneke is warming up in the bullpen for the Cubs. The crowd is commencing to stir toward the exits. Pitch to York is hit down and caught by Hank. Nice stop by Mr. Hank, who had to leap up high to his left to grab that line drive. So that makes one out in the top of the ninth inning. York lining out to Stan Hack. Cullenbine, of course, remains at second. The batter now is little Jimmy Outlaw. And he's tucking his shirt a little bit tighter down into his breeches before he steps in there and grabs that bat and goes up to see what he can do. As for what he's done so far today, he's 0 for 3. That pitch is wide to him. Mickey Livingston had to jump sharply to his right to hold it. Ball 1 on Outlaw. She's an 8-3 ball game with Detroit in front. Erickson works. Outlaw swings on it. There's a ground ball to deep shortstop. It's fielded down there by Billy Schuster. The throw to first is in time, and Outlaw is out, and Cullenbine holds at second. 2 away. The batter is Paul Richards, the tall, dark-haired catcher from Texas, who has a long neck and a prominent Adam's apple. That's right-handed, and he has 1 hit today and 3 official times up. First pitch to him is just a little inside, ball 1. There's no underestimating the importance of Richards to that Tiger setup. He's a 37-year-old veteran and a very cagey fella. He's had tremendous influence on straightening out the pitching of Hal Newhouser, who was addicted to wildness in these early days. Richards starts to swing, follows through, and it's a strike on him. There's a high curve. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2 out, and Roy Cullenbine standing down at second with his hands on his hips. The big blonde, Paul Erickson, steps back now and picks up the rosin bag. He's ready to pitch to Richards. Here it comes. Richards takes a called strike. Just above the waist on the outside corner. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Erickson taking a lot of time. Stretches now. Works. Richards fouls it off on the ground. And big, bulky Roy Cullenbine, who's not taking too much of a lead off second, turns around, walks back to the bag. Again, he puts his hands on his hips. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Richards. Erickson working. Richards taking, it's outside, ball 2. 2-2. These Tigers have bashed out 4 doubles today. Greenberg has gotten 3 of them. Cullenbine got the other one. He had a double yesterday. That one's low into the dirt. Bounces up into the glove of Mickey Livingston to make it ball 3 and strike 2 on Paul Richards. Now Erickson is taking plenty of time. Quiet settles over the throng here. It'll be the last half of the ninth for Chicago. Custer's last stand for the Cubs. They'll be trying to do all they can. Pitch to Richards is swung on. There's a high Baltimore chop off of the plate, and it's fielded by Erickson. The throw to first is in time by an eyelash. So Richards is out, and that is out number 3 for Detroit in the top of the ninth inning. This ninth inning brought 2 more runs for the Tigers on 2 hits, 2 doubles. They had a base runner left on. And there were no errors by the Chicago Cubs. So as we head for the last half of the ninth inning and the last bats for the homestanding Chicago Cubs, here's the way the box totals look right now. 8 runs for Detroit on 11 hits. The Tigers have made no errors. 3 runs for Chicago on 5 hits. They've been guilty of 2 misplays. And now as we head for the last half of the ninth inning, Hal Newhouser, who was disappointing in the first game of the World Series but has been sterling today, is out there completing his warm-up pitches. The young 24-year-older who is very rangily built, very athletic build he has, working that long left arm of his. As we've repeatedly mentioned, this chap Newhouser has one of the greatest pitching records extant in baseball at this particular moment. Last year, in the season, he won 29 and lost but 9. This year, he won 25 and lost but 9. So in 2 years, this young 24-year-old out there, who is a product of Detroit all the way, even from Detroit high schools on up, has won 54 ball games and lost only 18 in 2 years. He lost his first game in the World Series. My personal hunch is he was a little nervous for a young fellow. It was his first World Series performance. But today, after the first inning, that nervousness fell away from him. And he moved in on the Cubs, and he's pitched a beautiful ball game. He's the strikeout king of the American League this year. Struck out 211 of them. He pitched 312 innings. That's more than any other pitcher in the American League this year. And he was voted the most valuable player of the season of 1944. That is young Hal Newhouser, who is rubbing up the ball now as we get into the last half of the ninth inning and preparing to pitch to the strikeout, to the batting king of the National League of 1945, Phil Cavaretta. He struck out Cavaretta once today and turned him back without a hit in 2 official times up. Newhouser's pitch to Cavaretta is a good curveball over the inside corner for a called strike. Now Big Hal toils. There's a slow ball that goes outside for ball 1. 1-1 the count on Phil Cavaretta. Pitch is swung on. There's a high fly ball going into center field. Racing in under it is Doc Kramer. Over is Cullenbine, and it falls between them as Cullenbine was pointing to Kramer, and Kramer was standing looking at Cullenbine, and it's a double for Cavaretta, who had raced it all the way around the second. That looked like an easy out. But Doc Kramer and Roy Cullenbine decided to put on the Gaston and Alphonse act, and while they stood there bowing low to each other for the honor of catching the ball fell between them for a double for Cavaretta. And he's up there, and now here's Papko. Papko swings on one and misses it. It was a low-breaking curveball. That was Cavaretta's 6th hit of the series. Mixed in those 6 hits is a home run that he hit over in Detroit. And now Papko stands up there. Papko hasn't hit today. As a matter of fact, Papko hasn't hit since the first ball game. He was hotter than soup that first day in Detroit last Wednesday. He went 3 for 4. But since then, Papko has yet to get a hit. And as Al just pointed out to me, it was Cavaretta, Papko, and Nicholson who were up in the last half of the ninth inning yesterday. And thanks to extreme politeness between the center fielder of the Detroit Tigers and their right fielder, Cavaretta is on with a double. Cavaretta flied out to center field when he came up yesterday. Almost did that today. Now Papko takes a fast called strike. That one was just below the waist, and it had a tremendous amount of Newhouser steam on it. 2 strikes on Papko. Cavaretta leading off second. Here it is. Papko swings on a breaking curveball, and he is out of there. That is strike 3. And for young Newhouser, that is strikeout number 9 in this ball game. And that's 1 out in the last half of the ninth. Cavaretta is at second, and here is bad Bill Nicholson. The big boy hasn't hit today, and he didn't hit yesterday. He fouled out to Richards to close the ball game out yesterday. Richards came right over here and made the catch right up against the wall. Now Newhouser pitches Nicholson with 1 away, and it's a ball outside. Here it comes. Nicholson swings on it. A high fly comes back into the stands. Strike 1. Newhouser with a new ball is blowing his breath on it, rubbing it up very carefully. Every pitch is important. This young Detroiter wants to clinch this World Series victory. It's 8-3 now. 1 out. The pitch to Nicholson is a fast called strike. Had a hook on it. Right across the chest of Bill. Right above that place where they have the big yellow C with UBS written on the inside of it. Nicholson swings on that one. It's a clean single to center field. Here's Cavaretta rounding third, coming in to score. Kramer picks up the ball out there and finally throws it into second base where Mayo is. That's a run for Chicago. They have 4 runs now. The score is 8-4. Cavaretta driven in from second by Nicholson, who came through with his first hit of the ball game. A sharp single to center field. That brings up Mickey Livingston. That's 7 hits off Newhouser. Livingston, a right-handed batter, steps in, swings on the first one. There's a long hit ball to deep right field. Cullenbine is going over, makes a nice catch on it. And Nicholson has to hurry to get back to first. That was a well-hit ball. It was to the right of Cullenbine, and he ran over and right in front of the vines out there. He grabbed it in. That's 2 out. Cubs, as it has been pointed out to us, have now used 17 players in this ball game. And the most players to be used by a club in a World Series ball game was 18 by the Giants back in 1936. Now the batter up is Billy Schuster. He swings on one. There's a high foul up. Richards is over. He's under it, down toward third, and he takes it for the final out just as he did yesterday. So that is the last out of the ball game, and the Tigers win by a score of 8-4. In the home half of the ninth inning, if you're keeping box totals with us, 1 run for the Cubs. On 2 hits, there was a base runner left on, and there were no Detroit errors. And the final rundown is 8 runs for Detroit on 11 hits and no errors, 4 runs for Chicago on 7 hits and 2 errors. And now the Tigers have taken the rubber ball game of this particular series. Well, Bill Corum is on his way down through the press stand, and he'll summarize today's game for you in just a moment. Speaking of the war and our victory, an old-timer said to me the other day, well, it was a job that needed doing, and so we did it. Well, he's right. And now we've got another job that needs doing. In every community, I mean a successful transition from war to peace. A great part of that job is falling on the shoulders of those who discharged their work so well during the war, the home front volunteers. These men and women are needed as badly as ever. Hospitals are still short of nurses' aides. The Red Cross still needs canteen workers. Local price control boards everywhere face a stiff fight against inflation. And selective service boards are busy processing discharged servicemen. So, if you are a volunteer who has quit, please get back on the job. It's a job that needs doing urgently. And now for his summary of the highlights of this 5th game of the 45 World Series, here's your friend and mine with a smile on his face and a lot of facts and figures and color talk in his head, Bill Corum. Bill?
Thank you, Bill. The Cubs couldn't quite hold that Tiger today. But to their everlasting credit, it can be said that they kept growling and clawing right to the finish, as they did there in that 9th inning when they were pecking away at Newhouser and threatening to stage a rally, but the Tigers were too far away. After all, they made the most hits, the fewer errors, and all important, the most runs, and they pay off in this game on that. There was every kind of baseball here this afternoon. Some I had never even seen, and I doubt if anybody ever saw a ball in a major league park sort of lost in the weeds. Cullenbine drove Pafko back there in the 9th inning and hung one in the ivy, and Pafko couldn't get the ball out, and it looked like Cullenbine had put him in the Ivy League for a while. But fly balls were falling around here for doubles and singles, and it looked at one time as if you could get the ball in the air tall, it would fall safe. Of course, there was a very high sky here today, which accounts for some of that, and then the boys seemed to have their signals crossed, particularly the Tiger outfield, although the Cubs were not blameless. One of Greenberg's 3 doubles, and Greenberg was the big gun again, hitting 3 doubles in a row. One of them was tainted, falling out there, a real fly ball that Lowry should have caught. But the shortstop, Morello, drove him off the ball, and it went for a double. So it was really a story of Newhouser pitching very courageous ball and great ball in the pitches when he had to, and the big bats of the Tigers, particularly Greenberg's, slashing the ball all over the lot. Cullenbine's hit, I guess, was about the longest, except possibly for Greenberg's homer, which you couldn't tell. It went in the stands in Detroit. About the longest hit ball of the series. It was right back there in the deepest part of center field. Now, the Tigers had their usual big 4-run inning, and in every game they won, and of course they've won 3 now and hold the whip hand in this series, and could win it tomorrow for their second World Championship. They've only won 1 before. They got that 4 runs that they always seem to get. And Andy Pafko, who had turned in 2 of the most beautiful catches of the series in the first inning to turn them back, catching long, long hits by Greenberg and Kramer, one in left center and one in right center with his gloved hand, started it off, and couldn't save Baroy as he had in the first inning in the 6th. He started it off with an error when he let Kramer's single roll through his legs and go for a double, and that was the opening gun of the big 4 inning, and after that it went something like this. The Tiger power hitters had been meeting Baroy's serves right on the Ford Frick signature on the ball even before that, and it was pretty obvious that they were going to get to Hank today, who was the Cubs' best pitcher this year and sort of won the pennant for him, and that he wasn't going to go this 9 innings. The slugging Greenberg sent Kramer over after he'd singled in that 6th with a double down the left field line. Hank's trick leg buckled on him, going from first to second, and he fell down. But the ball was so well hit that he could have crawled onto that base. Greenberg took time out to rest his leg a little and stayed gamely on in the game. Cullenbine followed with a single. Cavaretta got hold of the ball, made a gorgeous stop, but let the ball slip out of his throwing hand when he might possibly have turned it into a sparkling play, and everybody was safe. Greenberg stopping at third. He scored from there when York, a truly fancy Dan, first baseman in this series, by the way, with all those sharp one-handed stabs and pickups he's been making down around that first base. He's been a revelation. He singled to center and sent Baroy for a dip in the waters of regret. Hy Vandenberg then came on to pitch, and Outlaw moved the two runners along with a sacrifice. Hy then passed Richards intentionally and Newhouser unintentionally on 4 straight pitches to force in a third Tiger marker. While Webb was forcing Newhouser at second, York scored the Bengals' fatal 4th run. Crapshooters, I've been told by bad boys, although, of course, I would know anything about it personally, sometimes have trouble making that 4. But not these gentlemen from Detroit. The numeral 4 is their deep dish apple pie. They won those 3 games, as I said before, and in each one of them they've had that big 4-run inning. Now it'll be Claude Passeau, the almost perfect pitcher of the Cubs in the 3rd game in Detroit, back in there to try to stave off defeat and prolong this series if he can and send it into a 7th game tomorrow against Virgil Fire Trucks. And that V in Virgil's name looks as if it might stand for victory the way he pitched up there in Detroit. And anyhow, the Little Bears, with their back to their own ivy-clad wall here in Wrigley Field, will be playing with fire against that great fastball pitcher who just came out of the Navy and pitched only twice before the last game of the series down in St. Louis a week ago, and not of the series, but of the season, I mean, and then the game in the series in which he pitched so beautifully in Detroit. So that'll be the lineup for tomorrow, and there's all kinds of things I could tell you about this ball game, particularly Newhouser's pinch pitching. When he had to get Dewey Williams, for instance, there in the 8th inning when the Cubs were tearing back and looked like they might even then turn the ball game upside down, he took Dewey like Dewey took Manila. And that he had when he had to have it, though he wasn't a great pitcher this afternoon, throwing mostly nice curveballs, some fast stuff, fairly fast, not as fast as I've seen him. Of course, his arm is not really in good shape, we know that, and an occasional screwball. Anyhow, he was good enough to win, and the Tiger bats are roaring, and they look to be now in a beautiful spot in this series, and they played good ball most of the time to do it. Of course, there are always the mistakes and errors, but they're a part of the game, too, and everybody makes them. So, fans, until tomorrow at 1:15 Eastern Standard Time, when we report the crucial 6th game of this 1945 World Series for you. Smooth sailing, smooth shaving, and good afternoon from your host, the Gillette Safety Razor Company, Bill Slater, Al Helfer, and your friend Bill Coral. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue blades with the sharpest edges ever honed.